Chapter 32:22. Ling Xiao looked at Dugu Shengjian. Are you the one who left those wounds on their bodies? His voice was so cold that it was as if winter had arrived. Everyone could feel the bone-piercing cold. Those who were not strong enough could not help but tremble. Ling Xiao was furious. The consequences would be severe. The 18th sword was his master. Although he had several masters, each of them was like a father to him. Whoever dared to hurt his master touched his reverse scale. He would never let them go. Although they weren't sworn brothers, Lan Yu was a good comrade. He recognized a friend who went through life and death together. This included her by Feng, Dragon Elephant, and Ba Dao. As long as Ling Xiao had the ability, he wouldn't allow anyone to hurt them. Hurting them was also touching his reverse scale. That's right. So what if I did it? Do you think I'm still the Dugu Shengjian you met in the Dragon Elephant tribe? Although Dugu Shengjian was intimidated by Ling Xiao's aura, he was someone who cared about his face. He couldn't lower his head at this moment. Good. Very good. Today, you hurt them so badly that I'll tear you to pieces. Ling Xiao looked coldly at Dugu Shengjian and said fiercely. Hearing this, Dugu Shengjian's die-hard fans started clamoring again. Who do you think you are? How dare you threaten His Highness? His Highness, kill him. Kill that guy who dared to offend His Highness. These people were really retarded. They didn't know that Ling Xiao was different from the 18th sword. Ling Xiao couldn't rub sand into his eyes. This group of noisy idiots made him very angry. Shut up. He suddenly struck out with his palm. The terrifying palm wind struck the large group of people. This palm strike caused countless deaths and injuries. The clamor turned into moans, and excitement turned into fear. Devil! He's a devil! Some people shouted in horror and ran away. Some people trembled in fear and didn't dare to move. Ling Xiao wasn't interested in whether those people were dead or not. He looked at Dugu Shengjian again. Disciple, don't be impulsive. With your martial uncle here, that Dugu Shengjian won't be able to reach the heavens. After Sword 18 took the recovery pill, his condition improved rapidly, but because of the excessive blood loss, he was still very weak. However, he still struggled to shout at Ling Xiao. There's no need to trouble martial uncle, Ling Xiao said indifferently. The current you is still not Dugu Shengjian's match. He is too powerful. Even after using the demonic possession pill, I still couldn't injure him. It wasn't easy for him to feign injury and stab him, but now he was safe and sound again. He is not the unfettered king. The 18th blade stopped Ling Xiao purely out of concern. He didn't know what had happened in Sword God City, so he didn't know that Ling Xiao was fearless even when facing a sword god. Ling Xiao, listen to your master. Dugu Shengjian isn't someone you can deal with. His strength is beyond our imagination. Falling Moon also said, you heard it, right? Listen to what your master is saying, what your friend is saying. They are all very clear that you can't possibly be my match at all. Dugu Shengjian's originally somewhat flustered emotions quickly calmed down. Actually, as long as that mysterious middle-aged man didn't make a move, he had nothing to fear. Would Ling Xiao be his nightmare? Would Ling Xiao be the person to end the Sword Dynasty? What a joke! This was nothing more than the fantasy of Falling Moon and Sword 18. Perhaps in the future, Ling Xiao could really do it, but it was absolutely not today. Just right, looking at Ling Xiao's appearance, it was clear that he wanted to have a one-on-one battle with him. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he would kill Ling Xiao to eliminate future troubles. You guys don't need to say any more. Let him go. That kid, hee. Jian Fulong looked at Sword 18 and Falling Moon and chuckled, but didn't say anything. Sword 18 and Falling Moon were a bit stunned, but since Jian Fulong said so, he must have his reasons. Then let's wait and see. Senior, how should I address you? Dugu Shengjian no longer paid attention to Ling Xiao, but turned his attention to Jian Fulong. He, this old man is Jian Fulong, the former Devil Dragon Sword Court's Devil Venerable, beautiful Devil Land's husband. Jian Fulong coldly laughed and revealed a heaven-shaking secret. Because his entire body had turned blood red, even beautiful Devil Lan couldn't recognize him just now. Hearing this, she couldn't help but be shocked. That old thing is actually not dead yet. Beautiful Devil Lan sucked in a breath of cold air. Back then, as long as one wasn't stupid, they would know that she and Dugu Beijian worked together to trap Jian Fulong. Now that Jian Fulong could see the light of day again, how could he let him go? The battle here had been going on for a long time, and the commotion was very big. Therefore, at this moment, not only were the Devil Dragon Sword Court's martial artists watching here, but there was also a large number of martial artists rushing over from the nearby cities. They all wanted to see who actually dared to rob the Sword God Hall's bridal escort team. And this bridal escort team was personally escorted by Dugu Shengjian, the Crown Prince. Senior, the marriage between our Sword God Hall and the Devil Dragon Sword Court is a good thing. I believe that Senior won't bully us juniors. Dugu Shengjian looked at Jian Fulong and frowned. If Jian Fulong made a move, he would definitely turn around and leave, abandoning everyone. He couldn't die here. This was his nature. You don't have to say so much nonsense. This old man won't interfere in today's matter. You young people can settle it yourselves, Jian Fulong said with a smile. All right, Senior's words are enough. Dugu Shengjian finally let out a sigh of relief, then looked at Ling Xiao and said, Yen Yu and Jian 18 said that you are their hope, my nightmare, and also the person who will make our Dugu clan suffer retribution. But in my opinion, you just had a fortuitous encounter and are an arrogant person who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Today, I will prove it to them. After killing you, they should shut up. Have you fought with your father before? Ling Xiao suddenly asked. Yes, we have. Why? Dugu Shengjian asked. How do you feel? Ling Xiao asked again. Father can't be defeated. His aptitude is 10 times better than mine. The stronger I become, the stronger he will be, Dugu Shengjian said. I've also fought with him before. Ling Xiao suddenly smiled. In my opinion, he is just an outdated old man. In less than a month, I will be able to defeat him. Now, do you know what the biggest difference between us is? Confidence and ambition. In the end, you are just a golden bird in a cage. Although you are powerful, that's all there is to it. Since you said that I am a golden bird in a cage, then do you dare to make a bet with me today? Dugu Shengjian was still afraid of Jian Fulong, so he wanted Ling Xiao to give up on this strong support. Do you think you are qualified to negotiate with me? It is not up to you to decide whether to fight or not. Chapter 32:23. What an idiot, Dugu's swordmaster thought. That's exactly what I wanted. As long as Jian Fulong doesn't make a move, I, Dugu's swordmaster, am a sword god, and can kill you in a matter of minutes. Looking at Ling Xiao, he said, Bring it on. Let's see what gives you the right to be so arrogant in front of me. You're the arrogant one, aren't you, idiot? I really don't know where you get your confidence from, loser. Ling Xiao sneered. You'll find out soon enough. Without another word, Dugu's swordmaster unleashed his sage body, causing white sage light to surround him. Standing there, he looked like a god from heaven descending into the mortal world. Countless gasps and sighs could be heard. This sage body is basically cheating. It has super strong defense and super recovery abilities. How is Ling Xiao supposed to fight him? That's right. It's as strong as a peak general class defensive technique. No martial technique in the Sword Dynasty can break through it. In any case, I don't believe that Ling Xiao defeated Dugu Shengjian. Me neither. Let's see how strong this Ling Xiao is. He actually dares to challenge Dugu's swordmaster one-on-one. All of the people who had just spoken were experts from nearby cities, including life Caesars. Even they couldn't tell what Ling Xiao was going to rely on to fight Dugu's swordmaster. Facing Dugu Shengjian, who was at the level of a sword, Ling Xiao instantly transformed into the unbounded heavenly rat. Although he had spoken disdainfully, he didn't dare to underestimate his opponent. The sword god Dugu's swordmaster was stronger than before and more difficult to deal with. Therefore, Yang Qi had no choice but to use his most powerful transformation. Ling Xiao's transformation was complete, and black armor covered his body. The black wings on his back made him look even more ferocious. His eyes shone with cold, killing intent and a brutal desire to do battle. What a powerful transformation! As of this moment, no one dared to underestimate Ling Xiao. After transforming, Ling Xiao's body emitted a terrifying aura that was almost equivalent to that of a sword god-level warrior. Even Jian Fulong was a little surprised. When he was in Sword God City, he didn't see Ling Xiao's strongest transformation. As expected, this brat still has trump cards that he hasn't used yet. Jian Fulong shook his head and smiled bitterly. There were talents in every generation, and each generation was stronger than the previous one. He had seen it for himself today. Ling Xiao had full confidence in dealing with Dugu Shengjian. Although the other party was indeed very strong, there was no need for him to be afraid of a defeated opponent. This battle with Dugu Shengjian was just a warm-up for Dugu Beijian. Kill! In the name of the holy body, Dugu Shengjian suddenly roared and attacked Ling Xiao. All that was left of that figure was a beam of brilliant white light. It was as if the holy light had descended from the heavens to punish Ling Xiao. In Ling Xiao's eyes, it wasn't a ray of light that rushed towards him, but rather the sky. Dugu Shengjian was indeed worthy of being called a sword god. The pressure it brought was extremely powerful, as if a part of the sky was falling down. There was also a sharp killing intent in the sky. It wanted to completely destroy the enemy in front of it. The white light was so bright that the sword in Dugu Shengjian's hand could no longer be seen. However, Ling Xiao could feel the sharp killing intent. Holy sword art, endless judgment. As soon as he attacked, Dugu Shengjian didn't hold back and used his most powerful sword art. He didn't even use the Emperor Overlord sword, although the Emperor Overlord sword and the Holy Sword Art were both mid-level general-level martial skills. The Holy Sword Art was more compatible with the Holy Body, so its power was greater. Even if it was a 10-meter thick city wall, it would be easily pierced through by this sword. Whether it was strength, speed, or accuracy, they were all very close to perfection. Fang Hua's sword made the surrounding martial artists cry out in alarm. In fact, in order to avoid being implicated, they had already moved far away. However, they could still feel the piercing pain brought by the sword qi. It was enough to show how terrifying this sword was. As expected, Dugu Shengjian is impossible to defeat at the moment. If he had used this sword to deal with me earlier, my head would have fallen to the ground. Jian 18 frowned. Big brother, are you sure my disciple is fine? He can't die. Don't worry. Although this attack is powerful, it's just child's play compared to Dugu Shengjian's attack. Jian Fulong smiled and said, "Doesn't Ling Xiao have the Golden Phoenix incarnation? Even if he is hit, it's nothing. Don't you know his life-saving ability?" Hearing this, Jian 18 breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that Ling Xiao not only had the Golden Phoenix incarnation, but also a very powerful movement technique. As long as he used it properly, avoiding Dugu Shengjian's brazen attack was absolutely no problem. However, at this moment, he saw Ling Xiao take out the Sky Demon's sword. He doesn't plan to dodge. 18 swordsmen jumped in fright. This child is too bold. However, at this moment, no matter how worried and nervous he was, it was meaningless, because it was impossible for him to stop it. Even Jian Fulong couldn't help Ling Xiao. This made Jian Fulong frown slightly. Was Ling Xiao really planning to take this attack head-on? It was very unwise. That's right, Ling Xiao didn't plan to dodge. In a battle, there was always a reward. This Dugu Shengjian was the key to his cultivation to continue improving. What was there to dodge? His black tortoise divine body was much stronger than Dugu Shengjian's saint body. Boom! Dugu Shengjian's attack finally hit Ling Xiao. No, to be precise, it hit the Sky Demon sword that Ling Xiao swung out. Die! Dugu Shengjian roared, and his power crazily poured out. The light of the saint's sword was incomparably bright. Bang! A figure was sent flying out of the sword light and slammed into the ground, creating a large crater. It's over? This Ling Xiao is too useless. He dares to challenge the crown prince like this? You think you can do it? Can you block the crown prince's sword? Hee, of course I can't block it, but I'm not stupid enough to challenge the crown prince. Just as he finished speaking, a figure suddenly shot out from the big pit on the ground like a shooting star. Emperor Overlord Sword. Sword cleaves the black tortoise state. His speed was even faster than Dugu Shengjian's. Therefore, Dugu Shengjian could only block and not dodge. Dugu Shengjian, who also suffered a heavy blow, was sent flying and slammed into the demonic beast behind him, smashing it into pieces. Oh my God, what's going on? Ling Xiao clearly took that attack head-on. Why does it seem like he's fine? Yeah, he even sent the crown prince flying. Could it be that Ling Xiao really has the strength of a sword body? The onlookers were stunned. The strength that Ling Xiao displayed was too shocking. They all knew that Dugu Shengjian was strong, but how could Ling Xiao be so strong? Maybe the rumors are true. Maybe Ling Xiao really defeated Dugu Shengjian in the Dragon Elephant tribe. Nonsense! Let's continue watching. It's useless to talk more. Chapter 32-24. Just like Ling Xiao, Dugu Shengjian also had a special body, and his defense was terrifyingly strong. He looked at Ling Xiao coldly, his brows furrowed. He had used almost 90% of his strength in that attack just now, but he still couldn't hurt Ling Xiao. This opponent really surprised him. Well, it seems that you have also cultivated some special defensive martial arts. In that case, let's see whose defense is stronger. After saying that, Dugu Shengjian attacked again. He bent his legs and suddenly jumped up. In an instant, he was in front of Ling Xiao. Kill! This voice came from Ling Xiao and Dugu Shengjian almost at the same time. The two of them attacked at almost the same time. The Sky Demon Sword and the Holy Sword collided, and neither of them could do anything to the other. Go to hell! Suddenly, Dugu Shengjian waved his left arm and punched Ling Xiao's head. Almost at the same time, Ling Xiao's left hand also hit Dugu Shengjian's head. Boom! With a loud bang, the two of them attacked each other at the same time. Dugu Shengjian felt that he didn't hit a person, but an iron wall. Ling Xiao also felt that he didn't hit a person, but a body of steel. Damn, what kind of battle is this? The people who were watching the show were stunned. It's fine that Dugu Shengjian has a holy body, but what is Ling Xiao's body made of? Is it so hard? Amidst their exclamations, Ling Xiao and Dugu Shengjian had already collided dozens of times in the air. Their fists rained down on each other's bodies. It turned out that they were competing to see whose body was stronger. After dozens of punches, Dugu Shengjian suddenly retreated. He looked at Ling Xiao with a little horror. Impossible. How can your body be stronger than mine? He couldn't handle it, but Ling Xiao still seemed to be fine. This was completely unacceptable to him. He, the holy body that you are so proud of is just SOSO. Ling Xiao wasn't in a hurry to attack. Although his situation was much better than Dugu Xingjian's, he still needed some time to recover from the continuous hammering of Dugu Shengjian. Of course, Dugu Shengjian was in a much worse state than him. At this moment, Dugu Shengjian's body is covered with bruises, and his clothes are tattered. His nearly perfect physical body was beaten up as if he had just been abused. The most troublesome thing was that this kind of injury was a hard injury. Even if the divine body had a strong recovery ability, the bruises wouldn't disappear in a short time. This made Dugu Shengjian extremely angry. He still remembered that ever since he could remember, no one had ever been able to leave any scars on his body. His father, Dugu Beijian, was unwilling to do so, but no one else had the ability to do so, especially among his peers. He had never been afraid of anyone other than the other forces of the Nine Supremes. In every battle, he didn't even need to use any moves. With his divine body alone, he was able to beat his opponents until they couldn't even recognize their own mothers. But today, Ling Xiao had left so many scars on his body. This was even more terrifying than the hateful sword of the 18th sword. The 18th sword was just a sneak attack. But Ling Xiao's attack was caused by his full frontal attack. How could this not make him angry? Anger attacked his heart. His killing intent soared crazily. He couldn't let him live. Ling Xiao couldn't be allowed to live. Even if he had to pay a huge price, he had to kill Ling Xiao. Otherwise, if Ling Xiao was given a little more time, Ling Xiao would definitely ride on his head. At that time, he would have no chance of defeating Ling Xiao and could only accept the tragic fate of failure. What's wrong, Your Highness? Weren't you very cocky? Why aren't you cocky now? Ling Xiao landed on the ground and looked at Dugu Shengjian mockingly. His arrogant voice resounded in the surroundings. Everyone was shocked when they heard it. No one dared to laugh at Dugu Shengjian because they were deeply afraid of him. But at this moment, they no longer thought that Dugu Shengjian was invincible among his peers. Ling Xiao's performance made them realize that the Iron Wall of Sword dynasty wasn't invincible. Stinking brat, you're stronger than this old man imagined. Jian Fulong laughed. That scared me to death. I almost thought he was crazy. Although she said so, Yan Yu's face revealed an excited smile. The 18th sword was dumbfounded. As his master, he really didn't know when his disciple had become so powerful. Inside the demonic dragon puppet, Jian Luoying had already wiped away her tears. Previously, she was worried that Ling Xiao wouldn't be Dugu Xingjian's opponent. But now, she didn't have that kind of worry. Ling Xiao's performance made people feel relieved. Monster, he's really a monster. Main Lan muttered to herself. Back then, when this brat shocked everyone in the demonic dragon sword court, he should only be in the first transformation Yin-Yang realm's 16th or 17th level of hell. Although she couldn't remember clearly, he definitely hadn't reached the 18th level of hell. But now, he could already compete with Dugu Shengjian, who was in the fitness realm. It was simply infuriating. Mom, did you see that? That Ling Xiao is much stronger than we imagined. Don't make an enemy out of him. Empress Lan was trembling all over as she shouted in a trembling voice. This time, Lan Meichen did not hit Lan Meichen because what Lan Meichen had said was right. It's okay. We have the demonic dragon puppet, not to mention Ling Xiao. Even that old man Jian Fulong can forget about leaving here alive today. Main Lan gritted her teeth. Fight fiercely. It's best if both sides are injured. This way, she can use the demonic dragon puppet to reap the harvest Hearing everyone's discussion and seeing the smug smiles of his enemies, Dugu Shengjian felt a ball of fire burning in his heart. Shame and anger, grief and indignation, intense displeasure. He thought that if Jian Fulong didn't make a move, he could easily defeat Ling Xiao. But reality gave him a heavy slap in the face. Even if Ling Xiao stood there and let him hit him, he couldn't kill him. The sacred physique that he was so proud of had become a joke in front of Ling Xiao. Anger. Uncontrollable anger. Angry? Then use your strongest sacred physique. I remember that when you were in the Dragon Elephant tribe, your sacred physique had already evolved to the king-level sacred physique, right? Ling Xiao didn't understand why Dugu Shengjian didn't use the king-level sacred physique. It was obviously stronger. Don't worry, I will use it. Dugu Shengjian actually wanted to use the king-level sacred physique, but the problem was that it consumed too much true origin. If it wasn't for the fact that he had no other choice, he would never use it. But now, he had no choice but to use it. Even if he had to exhaust himself to death, he would never tolerate Ling Xiao riding on his head. Never. He, Dugu Shengjian, was proud. He was the #1 genius of the Sword Dynasty. Even if he died, he would die in glory. Burn, king-level sacred physique. Chapter 32:25. With a king-level saint body, all my attacks and defenses are 10 times stronger. Can you still block it? Dugu Shengjian finally released his strongest combat power, king-level saint body, because he had no way out. As the white flame burned, the sacred sword in his hand also burned at the same time. Sacred sword art, King's Trial. This move was much stronger than the previous one. Coupled with the king-level saint body, the white flame fell from the sky, but it wasn't hot. Instead, it was incomparably cold. On the path of the flame, there were traces of ice. This terrifying sword strike caused even Jian Fulong to frown. Even he had to consider whether to take this move head-on. Although he could take it, he would definitely consume a lot of true essence. It wasn't worth it. What would Ling Xiao do? Everyone had the same question. Ling Xiao didn't have much time to think, because the terrifying sword energy instantly arrived in front of Ling Xiao. The sacred sword art was Dugu Shengjian's strongest move. No matter which move it was, the power was extremely terrifying. Coupled with the king-level saint body, the power of this move was even more explosive. People without a saint body couldn't cultivate it all, nor could they release it. This was what Dugu Shengjian was proud of. Ling Xiao will definitely dodge. This move is no joke. It's more than 10 times stronger than the previous move. In the crowd, there were warriors muttering to themselves. If such a terrifying move hit him, he would probably become a pile of blood. No, it should be ice. However, would Ling Xiao dodge? He had fought with Dugu Shengjian before, so he knew Dugu Shengjian's ability like the back of his hand. Right now, Dugu Shengjian's cultivation had only increased. Other than that, nothing else had changed. So, was it necessary for him to dodge such an enemy? Frost Dragon Beast Soul, Frost Dragon Breath. Ling Xiao didn't need to dodge, nor did he want to dodge. What he wanted was the pressure on his body after the opponent's attack was released. It would allow him to continuously release the potential in his body. However, Dugu Shengjian's attack was indeed a little too strong. If he didn't block it and weaken it, he would definitely be seriously injured this time. He couldn't be seriously injured for the sake of increasing his cultivation. That wouldn't be worth it. With the release of the Frost Dragon Breath, Dugu Shengjian's attack clearly paused. However, Ling Xiao hadn't finished releasing his move yet. 9 Snake General, Black Poison of the Dead. The black poisonous fog spread along with the Frost Dragon Breath and rushed towards Dugu Shengjian. The might of Ling Xiao's 9 Snake General Beast Soul had also increased. Even Dugu Shengjian did not dare to carelessly inhale the black poison. He had to release 10% of his power to suppress the poison's power. Sun's divine ability, Bloody Plague. This was Ling Zhao's most frightening and indefensible move. As his cultivation increased, the Bloody Plague became even more powerful than when he was in the Dragon Elephant Division. Even though Dugu Shengjian's cultivation had increased, he still had to use 20% of his power to suppress it. Bloody Chi Bloody, Saint Body's Body, Black Poison Bloody Body's Bodies. He no longer released any offensive moves and began to defend. Diamond Ape Beast Soul, Unbreakable Diamond, 5 Ghost Secret Art, Rock, Devil. As the defense was completed, Dugu Shengjian's attack had already landed on his body. White flames instantly engulfed Ling Zhao's entire body. Ling Zhao seemed to have turned into a ball of ice crystal. However, a moment later, the ice crystal shattered. Ling Zhao actually escaped as if nothing had happened. This guy is too abnormal. With just a defensive skill, he blocked the killing move of Dugu Shengjian, who has a king-level sacred body, and he's unscathed. Monster! What a monster! Although the surrounding warriors had heard of Ling Zhao's reputation before, most of them thought that it was just an exaggeration. The real Ling Zhao couldn't be so strong. But after seeing it today, they realized that the rumors weren't exaggerated. Instead, they weakened Ling Zhao. Today's Ling Zhao was too strong. King-level sacred body. I don't think it's that great. Your father, Dugu Shengjian, is a coward. He watched me and martial uncle leave Sword God City, but he didn't even dare to stop us. You're even more useless than him. I've already let you attack me, but that's all you've got? You still dare to brag about how strong you are in front of me? You're really a frog at the bottom of a well. Ling Zhao's sarcastic voice spread throughout the space. Everyone heard it loud and clear. If it was before, they might have thought that Ling Zhao was a little too arrogant. But at this moment, none of them said such a thing. Ling Zhao used his strength to teach each of them a lesson. He even gave Dugu Shengjian a fierce slap. From the beginning of the battle until now, Dugu Shengjian didn't have the slightest advantage in front of Ling Zhao. This was simply unbelievable. Hearing Ling Zhao's words, Dugu Shengjian was so angry that his mouth was crooked. If Ling Zhao had dodged his attack, it would be fine. It could be said that Ling Zhao was avoiding the battle. But the problem was that Ling Zhao had been facing him head-on for several consecutive attacks, but he still didn't have the slightest advantage. That was too terrifying. Am I really not as good as this guy? I'm not as good as this lowly peasant. Dugu Shengjian had completely lost confidence in his heart. He had serious doubts about his own combat strength. No, impossible. Dugu Shengjian seemed to have gone mad. He attacked Ling Zhao like a madman. Calm down, Your Highness. Suddenly, the crown princess shouted, You have a king-level sacred body. Although you can't hurt him, he can't hurt you either. But you have more powerful moves than him, don't you? There's no need to panic. Just treat this person as your biggest enemy on the road of martial arts. Kill him, and you will surpass your father. As she said this, a huge battle flag appeared behind the crown princess. That's a martial soul? Ling Zhao frowned. It was an encouragement type, martial soul. It could raise one's fighting spirit, restore one's confidence, and increase one's combat strength. He's too shameless. We agreed to fight one-on-one. What's going on? Yan Yu scolded. It doesn't matter. What's the point of tormenting him? He's just putting up a stubborn resistance. Ling Zhao looked at the crown princess mockingly. I want them to see that in front of powerful strength, all schemes and tricks are in vain. Battle flag, martial soul, it's a bit interesting, but it's meaningless in front of me. So what if Dugu Shengjian completely recovers his fighting spirit? that will only make him lose more miserably. F***ck. This guy is too immodest. Jian Fulong smiled bitterly. Yeah, when I first met him, I also thought he was a bit arrogant. But after getting along with him for a long time, I realized that it wasn't arrogance at all. It's because he has the ability to do so. What he thinks is normal is inconceivable to others. Chapter 32:26. While Yen Yu and the others were talking, Dugu Shengjian had already regained his composure. He took a deep breath and swallowed a few pills, which should be pills to replenish his quintessential essence. Then he stared at Ling Xiao. It seemed that the Crown Prince Consort's battle flag, martial soul, was working. However, Ling Xiao did not cower because of this. Not only did he not retreat, but he also took the initiative to attack. You're done attacking. It's my turn. Is a king-level sacred physique unbreakable? Then I'll break it for you today. Emperor Overlord Sword. Sword cleaves the black tortoise state. He held the Sky Demon Sword in his hand and executed the Imperial family's sword technique. He had displayed the Emperor Overlord Sword in front of others more than once. But today, only a few people here knew that he knew the Emperor Overlord Sword. Most people had never seen it before. Even Lan Mimi did not know that Ling Xiao actually knew the Imperial family's general-level martial arts. The most terrifying thing was that the Emperor Overlord Sword that Ling Xiao executed was not only more domineering, but also more fierce. It was as if this sword technique was naturally prepared for him. He was the true king, the true overlord. Could this Ling Xiao also be a member of the Imperial family? Don't joke around. Would a member of the Imperial family become enemies with the Imperial family? He must have secretly learned it. But he has only been in the Sword Dynasty for at most 2 months. How could he secretly learn the Imperial family's ultimate move to such a terrifying level? That's true. His Highness the Crown Prince used the same move just now, but it was not as domineering and powerful. While everyone was discussing, Ling Xiao's domineering and arrogant sword had already arrived in front of Dugu Shengjian. Evading sword light steps. Heavens, not only does he know the Emperor Overlord Sword, but even the Imperial family's evading sword light steps has been cultivated to such a level. Relying on the evading sword light steps, Ling Xiao's speed reached the extreme. Dugu Shengjian could not catch up to such a terrifying speed at all. He could only believe in his king-level sacred physique. Then a crazy sword technique continuously poured down on his body. Dugu Shengjian was like a pitiful small tree in a storm, constantly swaying, swaying, and swaying with the wind. He could only desperately cover his vital parts, hoping that this would lessen the damage. However, a moment later, he realized that he was overthinking things. The defensive power of the king-class saint body was much stronger than he had imagined. No matter how Ling Xiao attacked, it was like scratching an itch. Aside from a slight pain, he did not feel the slightest bit of damage. Ha 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 ha. As if he had discovered a new continent, Dugu Shengjian laughed maniacally. Ling Xiao, even if you can use the Imperial family's Overlord Sword to such an exquisite degree, so what? You still can't break through my defense. Are you scratching an itch? How laughable. Your Monarch Overlord Sword only has 1 move, but mine has 3. Why don't I show you something more interesting? Ling Xiao smiled faintly, not taking it to heart. Although the defense of a king-grade sacred body was a bit of a headache, it wasn't a problem for him. Emperor Hegemon's Sword, Sword Annihilation of the 9 Heavens. An even stronger move was released from Ling Xiao's hand, not giving Dugu Shengjian any chance to catch his breath. Block it for me, Dugu Shengjian roared. Right now, he only had a king-grade sacred body to fight against Ling Xiao. Once his defense was broken, he would be dead. Boom! The terrifying sword strike sent Dugu Shengjian flying. He crashed into dozens of female martial artists of the Red Orb Guard before he came to a stop. Bah! Dugu Shengjian got up from the ground. Only his gums bled a little. It's effective, but it's too weak. Dugu Shengjian sneered. You've played enough. It's my turn. Since you can't break through my defense, I'll kill you until you're convinced. As he spoke, the white flames on his body suddenly rose. It was as if a barrel of gasoline had been thrown into a fire. It became incomparably dazzling. Everyone could feel that Dugu Shengjian's strength had risen again. A genius was indeed a genius. It wasn't an exaggeration. The situation is not good. Dugu Shengjian can actually surpass himself in a crisis. No wonder he was appointed as the next imperial emperor by Dugu Shengjian, and even looked forward to his trip to the immemorial divine tomb. It seems that this is not a simple favor. This kid really has that kind of strength that others are willing to pin their hopes on him. Jian Fulong frowned and said, Senior, what do you mean? Will Ling Xiao be in danger? Yan Yu hurriedly asked. To be honest, I don't know, because Ling Xiao has surprised me too much. I don't know if he has other trump cards. Let's wait and see. It's too early to make a conclusion. Jian Fulong frowned and said, although he was worried about Ling Xiao, when he thought of Ling Xiao's performance in Sword God City, he suddenly felt that Ling Xiao might have a way. Big brother, what if Dugu Shengjian learned the Golden Dragon Seal? That's a high-level general-grade martial technique. Jian 18 said worriedly. Yes, in fact, I'm also worried about this. If Dugu Shengjian learned the Golden Dragon Seal, then I'm afraid Ling Xiao will be in danger in this battle. However, I haven't seen Dugu Shengjian use the Golden Dragon Seal. I guess he didn't learn it. Jian Fulong analyzed. I hope so. Jian 18 frowned. Although he was very confident in Ling Xiao, he couldn't help but feel worried. Jian Luoying, who was in the demonic dragon puppet, was also very nervous. She didn't want Ling Xiao to be killed by anyone because of her. Junior brother, you can do it. You can definitely do it. Just when everyone was extremely nervous, Dugu Shengjian's attack had already landed on Ling Xiao's body. This time, Ling Xiao didn't make any defensive movements, which puzzled many people. Has he given up? Has he given up on himself? Or does he want to die because he knows he can't win? Or did Dugu Shengjian use some kind of secret technique to trap him? Such questions were finally answered in the next moment. Dugu Shengjian's sword pierced Ling Xiao's heart, but it stopped there and couldn't pierce through. What? Dugu Shengjian looked at Ling Xiao in disbelief. This sword was an attack from his sacred sword art, but it couldn't even pierce through Ling Xiao's skin. You have a king-level sacred body, and I have a king-level black tortoise divine body. As he spoke, the shadow of a black tortoise wrapped around Ling Xiao's body, protecting his entire body. In terms of defense, I'm not inferior to you. Ling Xiao sneered. You think you're the strongest trump card, but in my eyes, it's just a turtle shell to avoid battle. Then why did you use it? Dugu Shengjian questioned. I just wanted to show you that in terms of defense, I'm not inferior to you. In fact, I'm even stronger than you. Now that you've seen it, let me completely tear apart your ignorant arrogance. Ling Xiao smiled. Suddenly, he extended his leg and kicked Dugu Shengjian flying. Chapter 32:27. After kicking Dugu Shengjian away, Ling Xiao finally decided to attack seriously. Dugu Shengjian's attack on him had caused the energy in his cultivation to soar to 80%. However, it stopped rising after that. Therefore, he knew that it was time to determine the winner. There was no need to waste any more time. I said that I would tear you into pieces. Next, it's time to fulfill this promise. As he spoke, Ling Xiao shouted at Jian, subduing Long. Uncle, give me the demon dragon sword. Although Jian, subduing Long, didn't know why he wanted the demon dragon sword, he still threw it over. Ling Xiao held the demon dragon sword in his left hand and the sky devil sword in his right. Finally, he was going to use the dual-wielding combat skill that made him famous in the past. The third move of the Emperor Overlord Sword, Ghost King Overlord Sword. Ling Xiao began to condense the Ghost King Overlord Sword in his right hand. As his vital essence continued to pour in, a terrifying Ghost King seemed to be standing next to his right hand, holding a huge Overlord Sword and releasing an extremely powerful pressure. The third move of the Sword of Curse, Nine Dragons Poison Curse. Ling Xiao's left hand condensed the Nine Dragons Poison Curse at the same time. 9 pitch-black, poisonous dragons circled around the demon dragon sword, a blood-red light wrapped around their bodies. These 2 moves were the most powerful moves of the mid-level general-level martial skills. Now that Ling Xiao was using them at the same time, the scene was incomparably shocking. In the Sword Dynasty, Ling Xiao had never used a sword like this. Today, many people's horizons were broadened. No wonder that kid needs 2 swords of the same level. He can actually release 2 different moves at the same time, and they are both equally powerful. This is something that even Dugu Shengjian and I can't do. Jian, subduing Long, was convinced. He was completely convinced. He had no choice but to be convinced. What's the point of having 2 swords? It's ridiculous. You still can't break my defense. If you take out the Ice Supreme Sword or use your bloodthirsty plague, you might be able to defeat me. But the 2 swords together will only disperse your strength. Idiot. Dugu Shengjian mocked. You don't know anything. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, You know how to use a sword, but you don't understand it. You know what sword momentum is? Do you know how to take advantage of the situation? The power of mountains and rivers, force of heaven and earth. As he spoke, Ling Xiao's entire being seemed to merge with the world. Those 2 swords seemed to have been personally pierced by the heavens. Dugu Shengjian was stunned. He simply couldn't believe that a second division life-sizer could wield a sword to such an extent. Sword force was an ethereal thing, and it was even more difficult to capture than sword intent. How could Ling Xiao master it? Of course, he didn't know that Ling Xiao had already reached the terrifying realm of controlling heaven and earth when he was still in the divine Phoenix continent. That was because his powerful soul energy could even allow him to control a part of the world. To him, borrowing power was just child's play. Only now did Dugu Shengjian truly feel fear. He desperately circulated his true essence, and the white flame on the saint's sword in his hand rose to a height of 3 meters. Holy Sword Art's strongest move, heavenly punishment. He was going to put his life on the line. This was because at this moment he had doubts about his own king-grade saint body. By this point, the crown princess encouragement was wearing off. It couldn't be helped. Ling Xiao was too powerful. Moreover, the moves that he released each time were incomparably astonishing. Force of heaven and earth. Now that Ling Xiao had fused with the profundities of the Heaven Tyrant martial soul, he could finally unleash the profundities of the Heaven Tyrant martial soul. Although it was only the most basic force of heaven and earth, and not the force of the universe, it was more than enough. Rumble! 2 proud sons of heaven. One was the crown prince, who had lived a life of luxury and had received the attention of countless people. From the moment he was born, he was the strongest of his generation. Even after completing his first cycle of reincarnation, he was still the strongest of his generation. One of them was a little beggar who begged on the streets. He was ridiculed and looked down upon by countless people. Even after completing his first cycle of reincarnation, he had been born in a remote town. The difference in status between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. But as of this moment, status didn't mean anything. The only thing that could determine victory and defeat was power, Everyone was nervously watching the final showdown between the two on the battlefield. Crack! The sword shattered. The sacred sword cracked. Dugu Xingjian's heavenly punishment and earthly annihilation collapsed under Ling Xiao's double attack. Borrowing the force of heaven and earth, Ling Xiao unleashed his most powerful attack since he started practicing martial arts. The sword momentum shattered the heavenly punishment and earthly annihilation attack, and then heavily bombarded Dugu Xingjian's sacred body. The king's sacred body released a pure, white luster, blocking the sword from going any deeper. Dugu Xingjian laughed crazily. Ha ha ha, it's useless. It's still useless. You can't break my defense after all. Isn't it a bit too early for you to be happy? Ling Xiao said sarcastically. Crack! A crack appeared on Dugu Xingjian's sacred body. No, how is this possible? Dugu Xingjian finally panicked. His sacred body should have an invincible defense. How could this happen? Is it impossible? You still can't see the situation clearly? That's it for you. Ling Xiao said sarcastically. You are indeed a genius, but you are just a genius of the Sword Dynasty. I am different from you. My goal is the entire mystic world. Even the black tortoise continent can't stop me. This is the gap between you and me. Puchi. Ah. One of Dugu Xingjian's arms flew up. Ling Xiao's sword finally broke the king's sacred body's defense. Then, the crazy sword light flickered on Dugu Xingjian's body. After the sword light, Dugu Xingjian's miserable screams could be heard. Everyone was stunned. Is that still Dugu Xingjian? Is he still the invincible crown prince? In the face of Ling Xiao's attack, Dugu Xingjian had no power to resist and could only be attacked continuously. Blood continued to splatter, dyeing the ground red. Who would have thought that the battle between Ling Xiao and Dugu Xingjian would be so one-sided? Ling Xiao was basically unharmed from the beginning to the end. However, Dugu Xingjian was on the verge of death. Bang! Dugu Xingjian's body finally smashed on the ground, splashing up a cloud of dust. People could finally see his appearance clearly. Many women were so scared that they hurriedly closed their eyes. It was too tragic. Is this still the insufferably arrogant Dugu Xingjian, who was like a god descending to the mortal world? He was simply a pile of rotten meat. They could only vaguely see his human appearance. Ling Xiao, it's about time. Let's give him a quick death. Jian, 18, couldn't stand it anymore. Since Master said so, I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, you won't be able to see anyone in the future. Ling Xiao also felt that it was about time. In the end, he was still a little soft-hearted. If he had fallen into this situation, he believed that Dugu Xingjian would never have shown him the slightest mercy. His ending would only be worse. Perhaps this was the difference between him and Dugu Xingjian. Chapter 32:28. Who was the real genius? Who was the strongest youth in the Sword Dynasty? Actually, these two questions didn't need to be asked. Everyone present had already seen through it. The dignified Dugu Xingjian, the crown prince, couldn't even fight back against Ling Xiao. He could only live under Ling Xiao's pity. But from the looks of it, he was basically on his last breath. Even if he was saved, he would still be a cripple. Where's my senior sister Luoying? Ling Xiao looked coldly at Dugu Xingjian, who was already a pile of mud, and asked coldly, He, kill me if you can. Anyway, Dugu Xingjian, am already a cripple. What difference does it make whether I die or not? Dugu Xingjian was a prideful person. Even at this point, he wasn't willing to beg for mercy. This made Ling Xiao somewhat impressed. It wasn't a coincidence that the Dugu clan could lead the Sword Dynasty and control the Overlord Sword Dynasty. Whether it was Dugu Xingjian or Dugu Xingjian, they weren't simple. But at this moment, Ling Xiao couldn't be bothered with him. Instead, He looked at Lan Mame and asked, "Old witch, where's senior sister Luoying?" "Ling Xiao, don't ask her. Jian Luoying is trapped in the demonic dragon puppet." Duga Shengjian put the puppet in his storage ring. Lan Yu hurriedly said. Ling Xiao glanced at Dugu Shengjian's arm that was thrown away. There was indeed a storage ring on his finger. He took the storage ring and opened it to take a look. His brows suddenly furrowed tightly. "This is a fake. What a joke." Duga Shengjian was actually deceived by Lan Mame. Ling Xiao looked at Lan Mame and said, "Tell me, where's the real demonic dragon puppet?" The puppets in the mystic world were all made with layers of arrays. If it was real, Ling Xiao could naturally tell. "Hee, you better not show such a vicious look in front of me. Otherwise, I'll kill Jian Luoying right now." Lan Mimi sneered. "Madam, it's been 200 years. Why are you still so insensible? Dugu Shengjian is already crippled, and Dugu Beijian is no match for Ling Xiao. The destruction of the Sword Dynasty will soon be realized. Why do you continue to be enemies with Ling Xiao?" In the end, Jian Fulong still had some feelings for Lan Mimi. He wasn't willing to see Lan Mimi walk down the wrong path. "Don't call me madam. I'm not worthy." Lan Mimi shook her head and said, "From the moment I set you up, I didn't want to become a vassal of you men. So what if Duga Shengjian couldn't do it? So what if Duga Beijian wasn't Ling Xiao's match? With your understanding of me, don't you understand? I, beautiful devil Lan, will never rely on any man." "What are you trying to do?" Jian Fulong frowned. "I'm afraid that she has already obtained the real demonic dragon puppet and can control it." Ling Xiao said coldly, "Martial uncle, this madam of yours is really a formidable woman. She has never sincerely planned to rely on the Sword God Hall. She has only been biding her time, preparing to use the power of the demonic dragon puppet to take down the entire Sword Dynasty. Is what he said true?" Jian Fulong looked at Lan Mimi and said, "Ha, ha, ha, I really didn't expect that the person who understands me the most is the person I hate the most." Lan Mimi suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. "What a pity! If we knew each other earlier, we might have really become a good pair of partners or even husband and wife." "Bah! Who wants to become husband and wife with an old witch like you?" Ling Xiao spat and scolded, "I've spared you more than once. I don't care if you want to seize the Sword Dynasty, but now, hand over senior sister Luoying. Otherwise, I'll completely shatter your dreams today." "You're too arrogant," Lan Mimi said coldly. "From the battle between you and Dugu Shengjian, I saw the depth of your ability. You're very strong. You're fully deserving of the title of number 1 under Dugu Shengjian. But unfortunately, my demonic dragon puppet is even more terrifying than Dugu Shengjian. You're definitely not its match. Don't even think about Jian Luoying. Her blood is the key to activating the demonic dragon puppet. I'll replace her." Jian 18 stood up and said, "My blood flows in her body. I can replace her." "No, your bloodline is far less powerful than hers. Do you think I don't know? Her mother is the ruler of myriad countries, Dragon Mother. After inheriting your bloodline and fusing with the bloodline of Dragon Mother, it's more suitable for the demonic dragon puppet." Lan Mimi shook her head. "Master, there's no need to talk nonsense with her. It's impossible for her to be obedient. The strength of the demonic dragon puppet has already confused her mind, making her think that she can defeat all the experts." Ling Xiao sighed and said, "There's only one way to go now, and that is to destroy the demonic dragon puppet." "Ling Xiao, go to hell." Suddenly, Dugu Shengjian, who was originally paralyzed on the ground, bounced up from the ground with unknown strength and pounced towards Ling Xiao. "Even if I die, I'll pull you into hell with me." Dugu Shengjian knew that he was finished, but even if he died, he didn't want to see Ling Xiao live well. Therefore, he wanted to drag Ling Xiao down with him. It seems that I really shouldn't have the slightest bit of pity for you. Ling Xiao coldly glanced at Dugu Shengjian, who was pouncing towards him. You want to die with me? Ridiculous. He slowly extended his right hand, and a terrifying wave of true essence condensed on his right hand. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Suddenly, a strange crack appeared in the void. From that crack, a huge dragon claw stretched out. Then, Dugu Shengjian was caught by the dragon claw. What? Even Ling Xiao was taken aback by this scene, and his figure retreated rapidly. The moment he retreated, a similar crack appeared beside him, and a huge dragon claw stretched out to grab him. However, he escaped relatively quickly, and the dragon claw didn't catch anything. What's going on? Ling Xiao retreated back to his own camp, and then he saw a shocking scene. The team that was supposed to send the bride was all grabbed by the dragon claw that stretched out from the crack. Then, behind Lan Mimi, the 9-story demon pagoda appeared out of thin air. However, at this moment, the 9-story demon pagoda released waves of incomparably terrifying aura. The earth was shaking. The sky was also covered with dark clouds. Everyone fell into a state of panic and unease. Lan Mimi, you're crazy. How dare you kill me? Father won't let you off. Dugu Shengjian's miserable voice came from the crack, filled with unwillingness and humiliation. Hee, you were killed by Ling Xiao. What does it have to do with me? If your father wants to kill someone, he'll only kill Ling Xiao. Lan Mimi mocked. She really has the demonic dragon puppet. I can't feel the slightest bit of familiarity. She didn't hesitate to spend 200 years of energy and even gave up on breaking through her cultivation to focus on controlling the demonic dragon puppet. This woman's scheming is really terrifying. Chapter 32:29. Jian Fulong said loudly, Ling Xiao, you're right. She's a formidable woman. Today's winner might really be her. Everyone, get ready to retreat. Of course, Jian Fulong knew what the tremors meant and what Lan Mei Devil had obtained. He said helplessly. Hearing Jian Fulong's words, Ling Xiao realized that the terrifying devil dragon puppet had awoken. They hadn't even seen the true devil dragon puppet, but it was already terrifying enough. If it really did appear, how terrifying would it be? Run? You can't run. Ling Xiao shook his head. Even if it's the devil dragon puppet, we can't run. Senior sister Luo Ying hasn't been rescued yet. But Ling Xiao, it's not that I want to belittle myself. The demonic dragon puppet was created by me and a few of my good friends back then. I know best how terrifying it is. Even Dugu Batian wouldn't be a match for the devil dragon puppet, let alone you. Jian Fulong smiled bitterly. You can't run. Ling Xiao shook his head. I know there's a tiger in the mountain, but I still want to go there. Senior sister Luo Ying has done me a great favor. If I abandon her, what right do I have to talk about saving the world? If I can't even save a woman, what kind of man am I? Most of the Sword God Hall's bridal party had been wiped out. Only the crown princess managed to escape the clutches of the Red Gem Guard's sword saints. Of course, that was only temporary. But for now, no one was paying attention to them. Everyone's attention was on Lan Mei Devil and the 9-story demon pagoda that had been moved out of the Devil Dragon Sword Court. Ling Xiao rushed toward Lan Mei Devil, but Jian Fulong stopped him. Don't be rash, Jian Fulong said. That devil dragon puppet has the power of a 5th stratum life-sizer. It's not something you or I can deal with. Jian Fulong roared, Get out of my way, or I'll beat you up too. Ling Xiao coldly looked at Jian Fulong and said, I know you're doing this for my own good, but you should understand that the demonic dragon puppet has yet to fully awaken. Once it fully awakens, my senior sister Luo Ying's life would be in danger. Now is the best chance to save her. In your current state, not only will you not be able to save anyone, you will also be killed. If you want to fight, then fight. No matter what, I can't watch you throw your life away. Jian Fulong steeled his heart. Even if Ling Xiao viewed him as an enemy, he wouldn't step aside. Get out of my way. Ling Xiao roared. He couldn't bring himself to kill Jian Fulong. However, in order to save Jian Luoying, he had to force his way through. Ha ha, you don't have to fight anymore. Do you think that the demonic dragon puppet has only just begun to awaken? 200 years. A whole 200 years. Even if he was a martial artist, how many 200 years could he have in his life? I poured all my heart and soul into this demonic dragon puppet. Speaking of which, I still have to thank Lord Dragon, Mother of Myriad Countries. That person is obviously an extremely powerful existence, but she likes our Sword Dynasty's egg fried rice that only mortals eat. I racked my brains to gather the best chefs in Sword Dynasty and specially prepared the most delicious egg fried rice for Lord Dragon Mother. She was overjoyed and bestowed me with a dragon soul, demonic dragon beast soul. This allowed me to have the most crucial control over the demonic dragon puppet. I'm afraid Jian Fulong didn't expect this. Lan Mimi laughed crazily. The 9-floored demon pagoda behind her actually began to change. It can't be, could it be, that the demonic dragon puppet is the 9-floored demon pagoda itself? Ling Xiao asked in shock. Jian Fulong sighed and said, "You're right. This demonic dragon's corpse came from tens of thousands of years ago. After being modified by the puppet masters of Divine Secrets Continent, they actually created a 9-floored space inside its body. The demonic beasts inside were all captured and raised by us from the outside. When the demonic beasts are killed, most of their power will be absorbed by the demonic dragon puppet. It's the same when a martial artist is killed. F***CK. Does that mean that when we were cultivating inside the 9-floored demon pagoda, we were actually inside the demonic dragon puppet's stomach? Ling Xiao simply wanted to curse. This fact was really too shocking. However, Jian Fulong would definitely not lie to him. Moreover, the 9-floored demon pagoda was constantly changing, as if it was going to return to its original appearance. Earth Vertical Golden Light Technique. Finally, Ling Xiao took advantage of Jian Fulong's inattention to use the Earth Vertical Golden Light technique from Zishan's divine ability and rushed toward Lan Mimi. Not good. Jian Fulong did not expect that Ling Xiao actually had such a trick up his sleeve. He wanted to stop him, but it was already too late. Lan Mimi also did not expect this. However, the current her was already protected by the demonic dragon puppet's power. Ling Xiao wanted to kill her, but he was blocked outside by a terrifying power. He was actually unable to get close. Since I can't kill you, then I'll go in and save her. With a thought, Ling Xiao turned and headed toward the 9-floored demon pagoda. Idiot, she said. You know the 9-floored demon pagoda is the demonic dragon puppet, and yet you still dare to go in. Are you looking to die? Lan Mimi sneered. As of this moment, she couldn't help but feel wonderful. The demonic dragon puppet's immense power was perfectly fused with her body. In that moment, she felt as if she were a 5th division life-sizer. Look at how strong I am. Lan Mimi said, I've been planning for 200 years, and now my efforts haven't been wasted. Sword God Hall, Dragon Mammoth Tribe, Dugabatian, Ling Xiao. Compared to the demonic dragon puppet, you're nothing. She wasn't worried at all about Ling Xiao entering the 9-floored demon pagoda. The core of the demonic dragon puppet was located on the 9th floor. The path to the 9th floor was fraught with danger. If Ling Xiao entered from the outside without a teleportation portal, he would only be able to get to the first floor. Not to mention Ling Xiao. Even Dugabatian wouldn't be able to survive from the first floor to the 9th floor. At this moment, the Devil Dragon Sword Court martial artists standing behind Lan Mimi were finally excited. They could finally hold their heads high. For so many years, they had been suppressed by the Sword God Hall. Not long ago, a puny Ling Xiao had turned the Devil Dragon Sword Court into a mess. But from today onwards, they didn't have to fear anyone. Their Devil Dragon Sword Court was the most powerful existence on this continent. Devil Dragon Sword Court, long live! Her Majesty the Devil Sovereign, #1 under heaven. A loud voice echoed in the sky. Everyone from the Devil Dragon Sword Court was overjoyed. Ha ha! Good, very good. Lan Mimi laughed. From now on, with the demonic dragon puppet, the Sword God Hall will no longer be able to monopolize the Sword Dynasty. As for your cultivation, it will also rise with the tide, becoming stronger and stronger. The Sword Dynasty will definitely be ours. Congratulations, Devil Sovereign! Congratulations, Devil Sovereign! Long live, long live, long live! The flattery was even louder than before, but Lan Mimi liked to hear it. Sigh, how did the current Devil Dragon Sword Court become like this? Just a demonic dragon puppet. Made them seem like they've gone crazy? Jian Fulong sighed, helplessly. Back then, although the Devil Dragon Sword Court already had the demonic dragon puppet, martial artists were proud of their own strength. As soon as Ling Xiao entered the 9th floor, he caught sight of Jian Sakura floating there in midair. Jian Luoying's 4 limbs were bound by black threads. Her blood and energy flowed through the threads into the Devil Dragon puppet. By this point, Jian Sakura was extremely weak. You bastard! Ling Xiao said coldly. Sword light flickered in his hand, and the 4 black threads were severed. At the same time, Jian Sakura flew into his arms. However, even as he wrapped his arms around her, 4 black-garbed figures suddenly appeared from 4 different directions. All of the black-garbed men were at the peak of the 3rd division of life-seizing, and they had chosen the perfect moment to attack. It was the exact moment when Ling Xiao caught Jian Sakura, making it seem as if he couldn't attack. Die! The 4 of them simultaneously thrust out with their palms, sending a blast of black wind toward Ling Xiao. Whoosh! What they didn't expect was that Ling Xiao's figure would just disappear without a trace. He was completely out of their range of attack. Ling Xiao knelt down and popped a healing pill into Jian Sakura's mouth, then put her back into his beast ring. Slowly, he rose to his feet. Now that he had saved Jian Sakura, the next step was to destroy the Devil Dragon puppet. Who are these black-garbed figures? Ling Xiao asked Jian Tianying. I'm not sure. I've never heard of them on the 9th floor before. Jian Tianying shook his head. Could they be martial artists from the myriad kingdoms? Ling Xiao thought, perhaps these black-garbed figures were the martial artists from the myriad kingdoms who had been sent here to protect the soul of the Devil Dragon. They had been sent here by Dragon Mother. There was even a possibility that Lan Mimi had already joined Tato Land's Dragon Mother and became Dragon Mother's puppet to rule the Sword Dynasty. And here I thought she was ambitious, Jian Tianying said. Turns out she's just a puppet. How laughable. Chapter 32:32. Oh, I never would have guessed that someone like you would be among the Devil Guardians. A 5th black-garbed figure appeared. unlike the other four, he was much stronger. Although he was gaunt and didn't seem powerful at all, his eyes shone with incomparably sharp light. Fourth Division life-sizer. Ling Xiao frowned. The demonlings from before were on the same level as Eunuch Gao, so he had no problems dealing with them. But this black-garbed figure was almost as strong as Dugu Shengjian. He was just a bit older. From this, he could basically determine that these people were from Wangua. With the current strength of Demon Dragon Sword Court, it was impossible for them to have such powerful warriors. You know, I'm a 4th Division life-sizer, the black-garbed figure said coldly. The leader of the men in black revealed a cold smile and said, "Put down that woman, break your own arms, and get out of here." "That's right," one of the black-garbed figures said. "You heard the leader, right? You dared to ruin our plans. You should be grateful that we let you live. Hurry up and hand over that little girl, then break your own arms." One of the black-garbed figures who had just attacked Ling Xiao chuckled darkly. "Are you martial artists from the myriad kingdoms?" Ling Xiao asked. "Oh, you guessed that? Well, it seems we won't be letting you leave alive today." The black-garbed leader frowned. "There's nothing we can do other than kill you." "I see." Ling Xiao took a deep breath, then turned to Jian Tianying. "The 6 of you figure out a way to deal with the 4 black-garbed figures. At the same time, find the core of the devil dragon puppet and destroy it. Remember, we don't have much time. If you can't deal with the devil dragon puppet before it completes its transformation, run." "Understood." Jian Tianying didn't question Ling Xiao's words at all. As far as he was concerned, Ling Xiao was the savior of the devil guardians. Although saving Jian Luoying didn't seem like much help to them, that wasn't the case. Jian Luoying's blood could accelerate the transformation of the devil dragon puppet. Saving Jian Luoying was equivalent to buying time for the demon suppressors to escape. After all, they were not the only ones in the demon suppressor clan. "Jian Xiong, Jian Bai, Jian Xiaoxue, the 3 of you will deal with the 4 black-clothed men with me. Heavenly Sword Condor, Jian Feng. The 2 of you will be responsible for finding the core of the demonic dragon puppet and destroying it." With a command, Jian Tianying charged towards one of the black-robed men. Both were 3rd Division life-seizers, so it didn't take long for the fight to reach a stalemate. The battle between the other 3 was the same. It was almost impossible to determine the victor in a short period of time. "Brat, looking around, do you want to die?" Suddenly, the black-robed leader's figure flashed, turning into dozens of afterimages in an instant as he charged at Ling Xiao. Each of the afterimages exuded an incomparably powerful aura. Secret technique, multiple shadow strike. As the black-clothed leader launched his attack, Ling Xiao was completely surrounded by dozens of black silhouettes. There was no way for him to escape. In the face of such a powerful attack, Ling Xiao's face did not show the slightest trace of panic. Instead, there was a hint of anger in his eyes. When he saw what had happened to Jian Tianying earlier, he had been filled with the desire to kill. Since this man wanted to keep them here, he might as well kill them all. Rumble! Dozens of afterimages slammed into Ling Xiao at the same time. However, to the black-clothed leader's shock, Ling Xiao wasn't hurt in the slightest. Instead, he was surrounded by a golden glow. As it turned out, Ling Xiao had already transformed into the Vajragad ape. Ling Xiao wouldn't even bother to transform into the unbounded heavenly rat if he were weaker than Dugu Shengjian. Furthermore, he was now many times stronger than he had been when he had fought Dugu Shengjian. Although his cultivation base hadn't increased, his fighting prowess had increased dramatically. What the hell? The black-clothed leader's face turned very unsightly. His attack just now had not been weak, and yet Ling Xiao hadn't been hurt in the slightest. That made things difficult for him. But since he had already attacked, How could he possibly stop now? Besides, his opponent was only a second division life-sizer. What did he have to fear? Enraged, he began to emit black smoke that filled the air. Be careful, it's poisonous, Ling Xiao warned, summoning his nine-snake General Martial Soul behind him. Of course, the nine-snake General Martial Soul was special when it came to dealing with toxic substances. One could see that wherever the black gas passed, even the hardest rocks would be completely corroded. It was no less effective than the great sage of poison's red venom. However, if that was all there was to it, it would not be able to hurt Ling Xiao. Consume. The nine-snake General Martial Spirit behind Ling Xiao's back suddenly enlarged. The nine snake heads opened their mouths at the same time and sucked the poisonous fog away. The black-clothed leader was so frightened that he began to tremble in fear. Not good. This kid is the bane of all poisons. Just like the great sage of poison, the black-clothed leader had a weakness for poisons. However, although his cultivation base was higher than the great sage of poisons, his skill with poisons was far inferior. After suffering a loss this time, he immediately lost his confidence and turned around to flee. You think you can escape? Five Ghosts Mystic Art. Een Ghost. Ling Xiao snorted coldly, his hand forming a secret seal. A cloud of ghostly aura appeared in the darkness. Sharp claws instantly dug into the black-clothed leader's back. Crack! No. The black-clothed leader was quite powerful, but unfortunately, he had met his bane in Ling Xiao. As he fled, the Een Ghost ambushed him and crushed his heart. His body trembled a few times in the air before crashing to the ground. He couldn't be any more dead. Leader! The other four black-clothed men were in the middle of a killing spree when their leader was suddenly killed by the most inconspicuous Ling Xiao. Losing control of their emotions, they began to panic. Jian, Tianying, and the others didn't let go of this golden opportunity. They took advantage of the situation to attack. They killed all four black-clothed men. It's too late. Have your men retreat. Go. Although saving Jian, Luo Ying had slowed down the awakening of the demonic dragon puppet, Ling Xiao could sense that it was still recovering. However, the general trend was already irresistible. Helpless, he could only shout at Jian Tianying. Young master, follow us. Jian Tianying knew the way out. Ling Xiao nodded and followed the six of them out of the demonic dragon puppet. At this moment, the demonic dragon puppet outside had already taken shape. Its huge body was dozens of meters tall. The demonic dragon's body was pitch black and covered in sharp barbed scales. It was obvious that it wasn't someone to be trifled with. Hurry! Jian Fulong looked at the demonic dragon puppet nervously. Just a little bit more, and the demonic dragon puppet would be fully formed. If Ling Xiao was still unable to escape at that moment, then it would really be over. Jian Fulong, don't look forward to it. The place where Jian Luoying was imprisoned has 4 sword saints and 1 sword god. No matter how powerful Ling Xiao is, it will take a lot of time. He won't be able to escape. Chapter 32-33. Who said I can't get out? Just as Lan Mame proudly announced that Ling Xiao had completely disappeared from this world, Ling Xiao's expression changed drastically. However, a familiar voice rang out. Ling Xiao. Everyone looked at the demonic dragon puppet that was gradually taking shape. Ling Xiao's group of 7 flew out of the demonic dragon puppet's mouth at almost the same time. This is impossible. What did you do to them? Lan Mimi was extremely shocked. She couldn't believe it. Killed them. Ling Xiao only said a simple sentence, then flew back to his own team with the other 6 people. Master, I'll leave senior sister Luo Ying in your care. Stay away. He let Jian Luo Ying out of the beast ring and handed her to Jian 18. Although the beast ring could hide people, The martial artist in the beast ring would be shaken as long as there was a battle. Back in the Ice Reverend's forbidden land, there was no other way. But now, he naturally had to create the best environment for Jian Luoying to rest. You really managed to save her. Jian Fulong was extremely shocked once again. It's all thanks to these people. Ling Xiao pointed at the 6 people behind him. Jian Tianying and the demon suppressor pay our respects to the demon lord. Because Jian Fulong's appearance had changed greatly, Jian Tianying took a long time to recognize him. He hurriedly knelt down and paid his respects. I didn't expect that after 200 years, you guys would still hold on to your posts. Jian Fulong sighed. Now isn't the time to talk. That demonic dragon puppet is about to take shape. Ling Xiao suddenly turned his head and looked at the demonic dragon puppet. The terrifying demonic dragon had already taken shape. Roar! Suddenly, the demonic dragon puppet let out a furious roar. The roar was like a shockwave that struck the ground. It wasn't just the spectators who suffered. Even the martial artists of the demonic dragon sword court were sent flying by the shockwave. In an instant, there were countless casualties. On Ling Zhao's side, he, Jian Fulong, the demon suppressor, and the other experts released their qi to form a powerful barrier that protected everyone behind them from the shockwave. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sword 18 led Jian Luoying away from the fray. Once they were out of range of the demonic dragon golem's reach, they continued to observe the battle. Jian Fulong frowned and said, I didn't expect that after 200 years, this demonic dragon puppet would actually become so terrifying after being modified by Lan Mimi. He's as strong as a 5th division life-sizer. I'm afraid we won't be able to escape this calamity. All of you, retreat. I'll hold her off alone. The demon suppressors pledged their lives to suppress the demonic dragon puppet. Jian Tianying and the others said in unison, now is not the time to act on impulse. Preserve your lives and increase your strength. If you don't leave, even I will be implicated. Jian Fulong roared. All right then. Jian Tianying and the others glanced at each other before turning around to search for the other demon suppressors. Falling Moon also flew towards Sword 18. However, Ling Xiao stood there motionless. Jian Fulong looked at him, but didn't say anything. He had seen how strong Ling Xiao was, and knew that he was stronger than him. Therefore, there was nothing to be worried about. Ling Xiao had his reasons for not leaving. He wasn't the type to flaunt his superiority, but he really wanted to see how strong this demonic dragon puppet was. If he got lucky, he might even be able to achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation base. Sect Uncle, Jian Tianying said, Lan Mimi is backed by the power of the myriad kingdoms. This demonic dragon puppet must have some special technology from that power. Let's not get too close. Ling Xiao said. No wonder, Jian Fulong said. So, Dragon Mother from the myriad kingdoms helped her. She's so strong that even Dugubatian is like a child compared to her. Jian Fulong frowned. Ling Xiao, she said, today you'll be the first victim of this demonic dragon puppet. Lan Mimi's voice rang out. At that moment, she had actually disappeared. Only the demonic dragon puppet remained in the distance. Are you an idiot? Didn't it kill so many people just now? Ling Xiao saw a shocking scene with his taiji eye. Lan Mimi had entered the body of the demonic dragon puppet. She was controlling the demonic dragon puppet. If that was the case, the only way to kill Lan Mimi was to destroy the demonic dragon puppet. Otherwise, it was useless to do anything. Hee, you can say whatever you want. Today, you will definitely die. Lan Mimi's voice was filled with madness and brutality. The surviving warriors of the demonic dragon sword court were all sucked into the demonic dragon puppet for protection. Dugubatian also wanted to kill me, but You should have seen what happened to him. Ling Xiao stood against the wind. Even though his black hair was fluttering in the wind caused by the demonic dragon puppet's breath, he didn't show the slightest sign of fear. Dugu Batian? How can that trash Dugu Batian be compared to my demonic dragon puppet? Lan Mimi was really arrogant now. Previously, she was like a grandson in front of Dugu Batian. Now, even Dugu Batian had become trash. It seemed that the demonic dragon puppet had given her an incomparable amount of confidence. In my opinion, this demonic dragon puppet of yours is merely made of scrap metal. How far can you go with this toy? Ling Xiao mocked. That's none of your business. In any case, you must die today. At this point, the huge demonic dragon puppet opened its bloody mouth and spat out a ball of pitch-black flames. Demonic dragon breath. The black flame destroyed everything in front of it and crazily swept toward Ling Xiao and Jian Fulong. Demonic killing fist. At this moment, Jian Fulong let out an enraged bellow and blocked in front of Ling Xiao, sending a punch blasting out. The huge black fist forced the black flame back and sent it flying. Jian Fulong, are you trying to stop me? What does that Ling Xiao have to do with you? Lan Mimi's voice sounded again. A life-saving grace is more important than heaven and earth. Jian Fulong said coldly. Today, no matter what, I won't let you hurt him at all. All right, since that's the case, I'll kill you too. After killing you, I'll go and destroy Dugu Batian. This world will belong to me, Lan Mimi. Lan Mimi had gone completely crazy with the demonic dragon puppet. She seemed to feel that she was invincible and had no scruples. As she spoke, the huge demonic dragon puppet suddenly flapped its huge wings and soared into the sky. Every time its wings flapped, it would set off a terrifying gale. It was like a storm that even swept up the surrounding boulders. The martial artists who were watching the show had already retreated far away and were watching from afar. I'm afraid the Sword Dynasty is going to change. With this thing, even Dugu Batian won't be a match for it. That's right. It's too powerful. How was this monster created? You'll have to ask those puppet masters in Shinji Continent. They are known as divine craftsmen. Their abilities are so powerful that it's suffocating. Chapter 32-34. It shouldn't be a problem for Ling Xiao to leave alive. After all, the demonic dragon puppet might be strong, but it shouldn't be as fast as Ling Xiao. But it's impossible for him to win. The demonic dragon puppet is going to wipe out the Sword Dynasty. As everyone was discussing, the huge demonic dragon puppet had already flown above Ling Xiao and Jian Fulong's heads. An extremely terrifying aura was released from the steel body. It's so strong. Just standing here makes it hard to breathe. Is a 5th-tier life-sizer really that strong? Ling Xiao's face brimmed with an excited smile. Lunatic. When people saw Ling Xiao's expression, they couldn't help but think of this nickname. It was as if this guy wasn't afraid of anything. He was always so calm. Devil Beauty, are you really going to fight me? In the end, Jian Fulong was still thinking about their past relationship as husband and wife. He wasn't willing to kill Lan Meima. That's right. Since you want to protect Ling Xiao, I have to kill you. Devil Beauty's voice came from the demonic dragon puppet. There's no room for negotiation at all. There is, unless you're willing to join forces with me to deal with Sword God Hall and kill Ling Xiao. Hearing this, Jian Fulong sighed. I can consider joining forces with you to deal with Sword God Hall, but killing Ling Xiao is out of the question. Then you can go to hell. Devil Beauty roared as she controlled the demonic dragon puppet to dive down. Before the puppet's terrifying body landed, the ground beneath it caved in. Boom! A terrifying gust of wind blew as the demonic dragon puppet swung its tail at Ling Xiao and Jian Fulong. Ling Xiao didn't dare to fight force with force. The puppet's attack power was too strong. It was at least 100 times stronger than the Dugu Sage sword. If he did, even a king-class black tortoise divine body would be destroyed. Phoenix soars the 9 heavens. In that instant, Ling Xiao rose straight up into the air. He didn't look like he was asking for a beating at all. He just flew up like that. Golden Phoenix Sword Palace's Phoenix soars the 9 skies. Has the Golden Phoenix Sword Emperor joined your side? He even taught you such a technique. Lan Mei's main target was still Ling Xiao. Sword-subduing dragon was only brought along in passing. Hence, it was relatively easy for Jian Fulong to dodge the attack. Boom! The demonic dragon puppet's tail smashed into the ground, creating a huge fissure that was over 10 meters long. The scene was extremely shocking. The attack is very powerful, but it's a pity that it can't hit the target, so it's useless. Ling Xiao floated in the air and said indifferently, "Don't run if you have the ability. You're like an annoying fly." Lan Meimo roared, "What a joke! If you can use the demonic dragon puppet to increase your combat strength, why can't I escape?" Ling Xiao mocked. His figure flickered in the air as he attempted to attack the demonic dragon puppet. The demonic dragon puppet's body was too big, so it was like a target for him to attack. However, none of the attacks were effective. Not only was the demonic dragon puppet incomparably tough, but it was also covered with a protective membrane that Ling Xiao couldn't pierce. At the same time, Jian Fulong also tried to attack it, but to no avail. In the face of such a terrifying entity, 2 peak 4th Division Life Caesars couldn't even break through its defenses. "Sect uncle, you should leave," Ling Xiao suddenly said. "Why?" Jian Fulong asked, frowning. "Given your current strength, Sect uncle, you can't possibly be a match for the demonic dragon puppet. But your true cultivation base is much stronger than it is now. Once you're back in the 5th Division, you'll be able to fight it." Ling Xiao explained. "But you..." Although Jian Fulong felt that Ling Xiao's words made sense, he really couldn't do it if he wanted to escape now. "I'm fine. The demonic dragon puppet is strong, but it's just a puppet. It can't hurt me. Don't worry." In terms of strength, Ling Xiao wasn't a match for Jian Fulong. But in terms of survivability, Ling Xiao could say that he was number 1 in the Black Tortoise continent. "Fine, I'll back up. But if you get into trouble, I can't just stand by and watch." Finally agreeing, Jian Fulong turned and flew towards Sword 18th. "Where do you think you're going?" Lan Meidevil wasn't going to let Jian Fulong leave. If he didn't want to work with her, he would become her enemy. And if he recovered his cultivation base, she would be in deep trouble. Suddenly, an enormous fireball appeared in the demonic dragon puppet's mouth. It was black, more than 10 meters wide, and looked like a miniature sun. Then, it shot out from the demonic dragon puppet's mouth, igniting the air around it and filling the air with a charred odor. "Your opponent is me," Ling Xiao said, transforming into his undying bird-beast soul form and taking the initiative to stand in the path of the fireball. Boom! A terrifying rumbling sound rang out. Ling Xiao was like an ant being pushed back by a huge fruit, continuously sliding backwards. After a few hundred meters, he finally stopped. The enormous black fireball had lost its temperature. On Ling Xiao's body, the flames burned even more fiercely. Cultivation C energy 100%. Ling Xiao was ecstatic. Finally, his energy had reached the peak. Next, he only needed a suitable opportunity to break through. Flames are ineffective. Seeing Ling Xiao safe and sound, Lan Meidevil finally thought of something special about Ling Xiao. Flames were ineffective. Poison was ineffective. Since that was the case, she would use physical attacks. Lan Mei Devil didn't waste any more spiritual stones. She controlled the enormous demonic dragon puppet to pounce on Ling Xiao. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down. Just as Lan Mei Devil had expected, Ling Xiao didn't dare to take the physical attack head-on. He could only try his best to avoid it. At the same time, he transformed into his King Kong ape beast soul form and released the rock devil protection. The opponent was too strong. If he was touched even slightly, he would be seriously injured. You little fly, do you only know how to dodge? In the control room, Lan Mei Devil threw a large number of spiritual stones into the energy furnace. The demonic dragon puppet's speed was getting faster and faster. Its huge body was gradually catching up to Ling Xiao. Oh no, that demonic dragon puppet is getting faster and faster. Ling Xiao might be in danger. In the distance, Jian Fulong frowned and said, Ling Xiao relies on speed. Once it catches up to him, with his strength, he won't be able to withstand one or two moves from the demonic dragon puppet. Don't worry, that shouldn't be Ling Xiao's peak speed. Jian 18 said in a deep voice, Big brother, keep watching. Ling Xiao will bring you a bigger surprise. Ha ha, go to hell, go to hell. In 200 years, I've collected countless spiritual stones. It's enough to keep the demonic dragon puppet active for more than 10 years. It's enough to kill you. Aren't you very fast? Why can't you do it now? Lan Mei Devil's crazy laughter came out of the demonic dragon puppet's mouth, which made people frown. She was now more and more grateful for the decision she made. If she hadn't cooperated with Wangua's dragon mother, she was afraid that this demonic dragon puppet wouldn't have such powerful power. Chapter 32-35. In the past, Lan Mei Devil had been a bit skeptical about spending so much time and effort on the Tao of puppetry. But now, she no longer doubted herself. He was too strong. She couldn't be more excited. If she had focused on cultivation, she wouldn't have been able to catch up to Dugu Beijian, even if she had 200 years. But now, she could easily crush Dugu Beijian. This feeling was very pleasurable. Dugu Beijian was only in the 4th division of life seizing, but she could use the power of a 5th division life sizer. Just the thought of it was exciting. But despite her excitement, she was also worried. Of course, she was worried about Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's talent was terrifying, and he was definitely 100 times stronger than Dugu Beijian. If she allowed him to live, she would be in trouble. Therefore, Ling Xiao had to die. She would end his path of martial arts on this day. She wasn't afraid of wasting time. After all, she had accumulated a lot of spirit stones over the years to control the devil dragon puppet. She had enough spirit stones to power the puppet for over 10 years. In that time, she would be able to destroy all of the enemies in the Sword Dynasty. When she stood at the top of the Sword Dynasty, she would be able to obtain even more spirit stones to continue the devil dragon puppet's valiant fighting strength. Speed, do you really think you can outrun me? Just as the devil dragon puppet was about to catch up, Ling Xiao suddenly sped up. His entire body was like a beam of light. He had already entered the everlasting heavenly rat beast soul transformation state. The cosmic tiger beast soul appeared behind him as he entered the cosmic body state. Combined with the evasive sword-light steps and the phoenix soars through 9 heavens, he was even faster than the devil dragon puppet. Damn it! How can this guy be so fast? Lan Mei Devil had assumed that she would be able to catch up to Ling Xiao after spending so many spirit stones to increase the puppet's speed. But who could have guessed that Ling Xiao could still increase his speed? It was simply bad luck. Of course, Ling Xiao was having a headache. No matter how fast he was, he couldn't hurt the puppet. All he could do was dodge. What was the point? It was just a waste of energy. At this moment, the situation of the battle suddenly changed. Seeing that the demonic dragon puppet was unable to catch up to Ling Xiao, Lan Meimaw controlled the demonic dragon puppet to pounce towards Jian Fulong and the others. Let's see if you can save them. Lan Meimaw sneered in her heart. She couldn't catch up to Ling Xiao, but could it be that she couldn't catch up to Jian Fulong, Jian 18, and Falling Moon? You've angered me. The expression in Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly changed, and an empty sky suddenly appeared behind him. Not only was his speed faster, but his strength had also soared in an instant. For a friend, for master, he did not hesitate to reveal his tyrannical martial spirit. Boom! Finally, Ling Xiao stood in front of the terrifying demonic dragon puppet. The sky demon sword and demonic dragon sword in his hands had been replaced by the ice-revered sword. At this moment, he no longer thought about anything else. He only wanted to destroy this demonic dragon puppet. Rumble! The ice-revered sword and the demonic dragon puppet clashed directly. Lan Meimaw was overjoyed. He thought to himself that his diversion tactic had succeeded. Although Ling Xiao's speed was very fast compared to the demonic dragon puppet, the difference in attack power was like heaven and earth. Ling Xiao was dead for sure if he dared to meet force with force. However, what happened next shocked Lan Mimi to the core. In this collision, Ling Xiao was indeed forced to retreat more than 10 meters. However, the huge demonic dragon puppet was also beaten to the point that it fell from the sky and fell to the ground. The tremors caused Lan Mei to feel dizzy. This scene had already made Jian Fulong and the others dumbfounded. That guy is still getting stronger. Lan Meimaw was even more terrified. For a moment, she was so scared that she rolled and crawled on the ground. However, before the demonic dragon puppet could rise from the ground again, Ling Xiao had already launched another attack. The supreme ice sword in his hand condensed a terrifying slaughter sword essence. Behind him, a pitch-black universe appeared. This universe occupied the space between heaven and earth. Tyrannical 9 dragons' poison curse. 9 poisonous dragons came from the boundless universe, bringing with them an ancient aura as they pounced on the demonic dragon puppet. With the huge body of the demonic dragon puppet, it was impossible to dodge. This was because Lan Meimaw, who was in charge of controlling the demonic dragon puppet, had not recovered yet. The terrifying tyrannical poison dragons all hit the huge body of the demonic dragon puppet. Bang! 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 9 poisonous dragons in a row, each hit the same spot. The protective membrane on the demonic dragon puppet's body was torn apart by the 7th poisonous dragon. The remaining 2 poisonous dragons hit the steel body directly. Ka ka ka! The demonic dragon puppet's body made a strange rubbing sound, and cracks appeared on its steel-like body. Its huge body was once again sent flying dozens of meters away, rolling on the ground. However, even so, Ling Xiao's brows were still tightly knitted together. Even though he had used the tyrannical martial soul, he was still unable to deal a fatal blow to the demonic dragon puppet. Those cracks were actually healing at an accelerated rate. Buzz. Suddenly, the demonic dragon puppet's eyes turned blood red. Lan Meimaw gave up on controlling it and went into automatic combat mode. The demonic dragon puppet had originally been designed with 2 modes in mind. It was easier to control with human power. Automatic combat mode was likely to cause it to go berserk, but it would allow the demonic dragon puppet to explode with power. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the demonic dragon puppet was right in front of Ling Xiao, its huge tail swinging toward Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao hastily used the revered ice sword to block. However, he was still sent flying. Bah! He spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva. He had sustained internal injuries, and his face was pale. However, the injuries weren't very serious. The moment he unleashed the tyrannical martial soul, he was already strong enough to fight a 5th-stage life-sizer. However, it would be difficult for him to win. Crack! 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 The cracks on the demonic dragon puppet's body, which had been on the verge of healing, opened up again. The demonic dragon puppet, which had been going berserk, suddenly stopped moving. How could my sword wounds heal so easily? Ling Xiao stood there proudly, the revered ice sword in hand. He looked as mighty as a god of war. Just now, he had used the Sword of Hex's strongest attack. Hex didn't just affect people, it affected puppets as well. Ling Xiao is so strong. I'm afraid he's already surpassed the Dugubatian. Falling Moon looked at Jian Fulong. Maybe it's some sort of divine ability. I can't say for sure. However, it seems that he still can't take down the demonic dragon puppet. It's too strong. Its defense, recovery, speed, and strength are all top tier. Chapter 32-36. Impossible. 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 Lan Mei Devil looked at Ling Xiao, who had only spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked as if she had seen a ghost. She had already unleashed the full power of the devil dragon puppet. She had allowed it to fight on its own. And yet, Ling Xiao had managed to block it. Impossible? Today, I'll make the impossible possible. Ling Xiao took a deep breath. Everyone assumed that he would grow weaker as the battle went on. But that wasn't the case. He had plenty of healing pills at his disposal. At the very least, he was confident that he would be able to use enough to destroy the devil dragon puppet. Wait! Lan Mei Devil suddenly shouted. What's wrong? Ling Xiao asked, his eyes cold as he looked at the devil dragon puppet. We can work together. Lan Mei Devil knew that her devil dragon puppet couldn't kill Ling Xiao, and knew that it was impossible for her to kill Ling Xiao. That was why she wanted to work together with Ling Xiao. Don't you hate the Sword God Hall as well? Why don't we work together and divide the world? Wouldn't that be great? Lan Mei Devil looked at Ling Xiao, convinced that her proposal was very attractive. Divide the world? You think you're worthy? Ling Xiao sneered, the revered ice sword in his hand rising with terrifying power. If a few 9 dragon poison curses weren't enough, then he would use 10. He refused to believe that he couldn't defeat a soulless puppet. Currently, he was in excellent condition. The devil dragon puppet could only use devil dragon's breath, and the rest were just ordinary attacks. A 5th stratum life-sizer like this wasn't much stronger than the peak 4th stratum life-sizer, Dugubajian. In fact, Ling Xiao had the feeling that Dugubajian would be able to defeat the puppet as well. Puppets were just puppets, after all. They fought instinctively and had no brains at all. And if someone were to control them, they wouldn't be able to unleash their full power. With such a huge weakness, Ling Xiao felt that if he didn't try to defeat the puppet, what would he do if he faced an even stronger Dugubajian in the future? He had a feeling that if he saw Dugubajian again, that guy would probably be even stronger than before. Don't go overboard. You should already know about my relationship with the Myriad Kingdom Dragon Mother. If you kill me and destroy the demonic dragon puppet, Mother Dragon will never let you off. Lan Mei Ma said coldly. Moreover, it won't be that easy for you to destroy this demonic dragon puppet. Could it be that you want to see both of us suffer and let the people of Heavenly Sword Hall benefit from it? Are you done talking nonsense? Ling Xiao sneered and finally launched an attack. This time, he still used the 9 dragons poison curse. However, it was the 10-layered 9 dragons poison curse. Frenzied attacks were unleashed, and the entire world was taken over by the gigantic poison dragon. Everyone watched this scene in horror. At this moment, in their hearts, Ling Xiao was no longer the first person under Dugubajian. Instead, he was the strongest person in the Sword Dynasty. They even felt that Ling Xiao was stronger than Dugubajian. No, Lan Mei Ma watched helplessly as the poison dragons rushed towards the demonic dragon puppet. The only thing she could do was to throw a large number of spirit stones into the energy furnace and let the demonic dragon puppet block Ling Xiao's attack. However, doing so was futile. The energy furnace could only hold a limited number of mid-grade spirit stones. A large number of spirit stones could not be completely converted into energy in an instant. However, Ling Xiao's attack had already arrived. Once again, it penetrated the protective membrane and hit the cracks on the demonic dragon puppet's body. Then, it continued to bombard it. Bombardment again. Wrapped in a tyrannical power, it pierced through the demonic dragon puppet. Undying bird beast soul, undying bird immortal fire. An undying bird flew out from the tyrannical universe. It perfectly fused with Ling Xiao's body and charged towards the demonic dragon puppet. Within the crack, Ling Xiao's body ignited, releasing a resplendent immortal fire. The terrifying immortal fire continued to burn as the demonic dragon puppet madly twisted its body. However, even if it went up to the sky or down to the ground, the immortal fire continued to burn. After tossing and turning for half an hour, the demonic dragon puppet finally fell to the ground and turned into a pile of scrap metal. Lan Meima and the people of the demonic dragon sword court had no chance to escape as they were burned alive within the demonic dragon puppet. Looking at the huge fire that filled the sky, Jian Wushuang softly sighed. Jian Fulong let out a soft sigh. Puppets are ultimately puppets. External powers are ultimately unable to replace the martial artist's own powers. Meima sigh. You reap what you sow. Actually, he only had a little obsession with Lan Meima. As for true feelings, they were long gone. Seeing Lan Meima being burned to death by the immortal fire, his heart relaxed a lot. That trace of obsession finally disappeared completely. Ling Xiao walked out of the fire like an Azura, like a demon god. This scene was seen by countless people, although the tyrant sky martial spirit has long been kept by Ling Xiao. Countless people knew that Ling Xiao has a very terrifying martial spirit. However, the difference between the tyrant sky martial spirit and the mountain river martial spirit is too great. Therefore, among the people present, no one thought of the mountain river martial spirit. It is said that the mountain river martial spirit once appeared in the heavenly dragon continent. However, since then, no one has ever seen it. After such a long time, the madness brought about by the mountain river martial spirit has gradually subsided. Ling Xiao sometimes thinks too much. Actually, as long as he is careful, there are not many people who can see through the mountain river martial spirit from the tyrant sky martial spirit. The Sword Dynasty is going to change. Everyone said. Countless people sent the information to their organizations, sects, forces, and countries. If Ling Xiao defeated Dugu Shengjian and confirmed his identity as the #1 genius of the Sword Dynasty, since Ling Xiao had destroyed the demonic dragon puppet, Ling Xiao's status had once again risen to another level. It made him an existence above Dugu Shengjian. Can the Sword Dynasty continue to exist? Perhaps the end of the Sword God Hall has arrived. Regardless of which side they supported after watching the battle today, they all had the same thought. However, just as they were about to take a few more glances at the peerless youth, they realized that he and his companions had disappeared without a trace. Ling Xiao lay on top of Jian Fulong. He was very tired, and the demonic dragon puppet had injured him. It was time for a good rest. Jian Fulong carried Sword Sakura on his back. Falling Moon led the way. The Demon Suppressor clan also followed behind. Naturally, they were heading to the Dragon Elephant tribe. The Dragon Elephant tribe had become the stronghold of the 8 Immortals' kingdom in the Sword Dynasty. A few days later, Ling Xiao and the others arrived at the Dragon Elephant tribe. By then, The events outside the Devil Dragon Sword Court had already spread throughout the world. Ling Zhao's image in the eyes of the Dragon Elephant tribe and the 8 Immortals' kingdom became even more mysterious. Not only did he defeat Duge Shengjian, but he also destroyed a 5th-stage, life-sizer demonic dragon puppet. It was a miracle among miracles. Chapter 32-37. In the blink of an eye, the situation in the Sword Dynasty had changed. The Devil Dragon Sword Court, which had been in place for 200 years, had collapsed in a single night. Ling Xiao had completely destroyed their hopes of conquering the world. The Sword Dynasty had lost a 4th division, life-seizing crown prince, a heavy loss. Only the 8 Immortals' kingdom hadn't suffered any losses, and had even received help from an expert like Jian Fulong. It was as if the world had become a 2-man show between the Sword God Hall and the 8 Immortals' kingdom. However, no one in the Dragon Mammoth tribe dared to relax. The Sword God Hall had ruled the Sword Dynasty for tens of thousands of years, and naturally had their own strengths. Furthermore, the patriarch of the Dugu family, who had been hiding behind the scenes all this time, had yet to show himself. No one knew if he was dead or alive. If he was dead, that would be for the best. But if he was still alive, he would be a huge problem. Therefore, after returning to the Dragon Mammoth tribe, Jian Fulong began trying to recover his cultivation base. As long as he could recover his cultivation base, and with Ling Xiao in full power, they might be able to take on the Sword God Hall. That was the Dragon Mammoth tribe's current state of affairs. Of course, there would be no lack of celebratory banquets. After all, they couldn't afford to be nervous just because they were worried about their enemies. Ling Zhao's trip to Sword God City and the Devil Dragon Sword Court had been a complete success. It would be unforgivable if they didn't celebrate. At the same time, the 8 Immortals' Kingdom's intelligence network was in full operation. Whether it was news from Sword God City or other places, it was being sent to the Dragon Mammoth tribe's command center every day. Latest news. The various royals who were waiting in Sword God City to attend King Carefree's wedding have mysteriously disappeared. Latest news. The God Devil Medallion has appeared. With the exception of the Sword Dynasty, the other dynasties have begun to fight for it. When Ling Xiao heard the first piece of news, he only frowned. He didn't know what Dugu Beijian wanted to do with the disappearance of the royal families of the various countries. But the second piece of news was more interesting. The God Devil Medallion had appeared. Didn't that mean the God Devil emissaries had appeared? Ling Xiao couldn't sit still when he heard the news. Although it was important to unify the 9 paragons, it was impossible without power. Therefore, he had to get his hands on one of the God Devil medallions. Just look at the countless people fighting for the Fiend God token. Although the Archean Divine Tomb was dangerous, it was also full of opportunities. Countless people were tirelessly fighting for it. They even killed each other. Of the God Devil medallions, Jian Fulong said with a frown. Anyone who yearns for the path of the strongest martial arts will want to go. Ling Xiao replied, if you want to go to the primeval god necropolis and come back alive, you'll need to get stronger. At the very least, you'll need to be a 5th division life-sizer. I know, but time waits for no man. If I miss the opening of the immemorial divine tomb this time, I might have to wait for a long time. Ling Zhao's attitude was firm. He would do his best to improve his cultivation base, but he had to go to the God Devil Emperor. Well, you're stubborn, so I won't say anything unnecessary. 200 years ago, the God Devil medallions were sent to the Sword God Hall, the Devil Dragon Sword Court, and the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace. But now, the Devil Dragon Sword Court is essentially destroyed, and the Gold Phoenix Sword Palace is part of the 8 Immortal Kingdoms. So I suspect that the 3 Divine Devil tokens this time will very likely be sent to the Sword God Hall. Jian Fulong analyzed the situation. The Sword God Hall? Is it possible that the God-Devil emissaries have already arrived in the Sword Dynasty and left the medallions there? Is it possible that the God-Devil medallions haven't appeared in the Sword Dynasty because Dugu Bingjian doesn't want to announce it? Ling Xiao thought about it for a moment. That's definitely a possibility. Dugu Bingjian's greatest strength isn't his strength, but rather his brains. He definitely has other plans. Jian Fulong said, "Maybe I have to make another trip to the Sword God City." Ling Xiao said with a frown. It seemed that this final battle was unavoidable no matter what. Not only did Dugu Bingjian have the remaining 9 Supremes catalog, but he also had the God-Devil medallion. The battle between him and Ling Xiao was definitely going to happen. If you want the God-Devil medallion, I will definitely help you with all my strength. It's said that the other side of the immemorial divine tomb nurtures the strongest forces of the 4 regions. Our 9 Supremes is just a barren land used by the 4 regions to exile prisoners. I really want to know what the 4 regions are like. Ling Xiao, oh Ling Xiao, I hope that you can not only open the gates to the 4 regions, but also open up this demonic passage. Jian Fulong said with gritted teeth. In fact, many of the 9 Supremes' ancestors came from the 4 regions. The many stories they left behind recorded the beauty and strength of the 4 regions. This made their descendants yearn for such a place even more. Many of them even left their last wishes for their descendants to return to the 4 regions. For tens of thousands of years, many experts of the 9 Supremes had stepped into the immemorial divine tomb. But no one knew if anyone had really returned to the 4 regions. What was certain was that no one could open up this demonic passage and connect the 9 Supremes to the 4 regions. Jian Fulong really hoped that Ling Xiao could do it. This was because Ling Xiao had a special aura that could make people believe him. If I can do it, I will do it. Ling Xiao nodded. He wanted to unify the mystic world. If he couldn't even open up the passage between the 4 regions and the 9 Supremes, how could he rule the Black Tortoise continent? It was even more impossible for him to rule the mystic world. Although he was only an ant compared to the powerhouses of the 4 regions, he was still a powerhouse. His woman was in the most powerful palace of immortality. He had to go. He was never afraid. Experts also started as weaklings and climbed up step by step. He always believed that he, who had the sky tyrant martial spirit, also had the talent to become the strongest. Wait for it, Sister Yuanu. Soon, I will come to find you. Ling Xiao's heart surged with passion and battle intent. Getting the Fiend God token was the first step. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao stood up and said, "Martial Uncle, you stay here. Xiao Jin and I will go to Sword God City. This time, we don't have to fight. Moreover, the 3 Fiend God tokens might not be in Dugu Beijian's hands. You can also wait here for news. Once there is news of the Fiend God token, we can split up." "All right, but you must be careful when you go to Sword God City. Although you didn't kill Dugu Beijian, he died because of you. Dugu Beijian won't let you go. You used the transformation technique last time, so he will definitely be on guard this time." Jian Fulong reminded. I know. Ling Xiao had considered all the difficulties, but knowing that there was a tiger in the mountain, he still went to the mountain. This was his character. Chapter 32-38. Reporting. Even as Ling Xiao was preparing to leave for Sword God City, an urgent voice rang out from outside. "What's going on?" Ling Xiao asked. "Your Majesty, something has happened to Junior Chieftain Dragon Mammoth of the Dragon Mammoth tribe." "Big Brother Dragon Mammoth? What happened to him?" Ling Xiao said with a frown. Junior Chieftain Dragon Mammoth was just patrolling the area with a group of people when they were attacked by a mysterious person. Almost all of them were wiped out, and Junior Chieftain Dragon Mammoth was kidnapped. Xiang Fei was also taken away with him. Take me to the scene. Ling Xiao said, his brow furrowed. To be able to kidnap a second division life-sizer, like Dragon Mammoth in the Dragon Mammoth tribe without leaving a trace indicated that this person was at least a fourth division life-sizer. Could it be Dugabajian or Eunuch Gao? With that in mind, Ling Xiao led the group to the scene of the crime. It was a complete mess, and the Dragon Mammoth tribe members were in the middle of sorting through the corpses. There were over 1,000 corpses, all of them killed in the blink of an eye. All of the injuries were the same, as if they had been trampled by some enormous beast. It wasn't Dugabajian, and it wasn't Eunuch Gao. Who could it be? Frowning, Ling Xiao opened his taiji eye and began to investigate the scene. Although the person was being very careful, Yang Qi was still able to pick up some clues. Meanwhile, in a small city not too far away from the Dragon Mammoth tribe, you never would have guessed, did you, Dragon Mammoth? Standing in front of the bound Dragon Mammoth was none other than Xiang Fei. Are you crazy, Xiang Fei? He asked. You and I are brothers. How could you collude with outsiders over and over again? What exactly are you doing? Dragon Mammoth glared at Xiang Fei, his heart burning with rage. Back when he had let Xiang Fei go, he had assumed that he would turn over a new leaf. Who could have guessed that he would refuse to change? And now he had betrayed him, telling someone about the route and time of his patrol, which had led to his capture. Otherwise, even a fourth division life-sizer would have had enough time to send out a distress signal. Dragon Mammoth. Oh, Dragon Mammoth. Do you know what your biggest weakness? It was just that he was too sentimental. It's my luck that I survived. It has nothing to do with you. Xiang Fei sneered. Just you wait. This time, with the support of the Myriad Kingdom Dragon Mother and the Myriad Kingdom Dragonesque Elephant Tribe, I, Xiang Fei, will definitely ascend to the throne of the Dragonesque Elephant Tribe. Idiot, if you want to be the clan leader, I can give you the position, but how can you listen to the words of those crazy and vicious people? Don't forget, how did the Dragon Elephant clan of Tato Land treat us back then? How did our mother die? Long Xiang roared. Pah! Xiang Fei raised his whip and lashed it on Longxiang's body. How dare you be so arrogant when you're about to die? The Longxiang clan of Wanguo is the master. We're just rebels. Now that the main family is willing to take us in again, what's wrong with that? Lord Xiangshan has arrived. Suddenly, a voice came from outside. Xiang Fei hurriedly put down his whip and knelt on the ground. The door opened. To be exact, it was the cell door that was opened. A young man entered, looking to be in his 20s. As he approached, Xiang Fei didn't even dare to raise his head. In fact, he looked like a dog that couldn't breathe. When did you learn to be as obedient as Xiang Fei, Dragonesque? Xiang Shan said, looking coldly at Dragonesque Elephant. Then he smiled. You know how strong I am. If you don't stop me, the consequences will be dire. Bah! Dragonesque Elephant spat. I'm not a coward like Xiang Fei. You want to kill me? You want me dead. You want me dead. Spitting out a mouthful of bloody spit, Dragon Mammoth said, You're only in the 5th division of life seizing, right? My brother, Ling Xiao, just killed a 5th division life-sizer devil dragon golem. If you don't want to die, then get the hell out of the Sword Dynasty. Humph, you're still so stubborn, Xiangshan said disdainfully. You think a piece of trash puppet can compare to me? If you weren't afraid, why did you run away? According to you, destroying the Dragonesque Elephant tribe would be as easy as lifting a hand. Dragonesque Elephant sneered. In response to Dragonesque Elephant's words, Xiangshan's expression darkened. Dragonesque Elephant had hit the nail on the head. Xiangshan really was afraid of the legendary Ling Xiao. After all, he couldn't afford to lose. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for what happens next. I heard that you have the most outstanding martial soul of the dragonesque elephant tribe, the king of dragonesque mammoths. It just so happens that I'm not very satisfied with my martial soul. It's simply a waste to leave such a good martial soul in your body. Xiang Fei, get ready to take him to Sword God City. They have the best doctors there who can perform the most perfect martial soul transplant. Oh, right. Once you take this dragonesque elephant's martial soul, you can turn him into a puppet. It'll be fun to see brothers fighting each other on the battlefield. Xiang Shan laughed heartily, feeling proud and excited at his brilliant idea. Sword God City. News of the battle outside the Devil Dragon Sword Court spread far and wide. Sword God Hall was in a gloomy mood. Ling Xiao had just wreaked havoc in Sword God City, destroyed the bloodthirsty sword sepulchre, and rescued countless experts right in front of Dugubatian. Who would have thought that after leaving Sword God City, he would go straight to the Devil Dragon Sword Court and cripple Dugubatian in front of so many people? Dugubatian had been killed by the dragonesque puppet. Of course, that wasn't shocking enough. Even more shocking was the fact that Ling Xiao had actually killed the dragonesque puppet, which was as strong as a 5th division life-sizer. They had once believed that Dugubatian was invincible. They had once believed that Dugubatian was the most talented. But Ling Xiao's appearance completely changed all of this. Not only had he destroyed Dugubatian's reputation as the #1 genius, but he had also used his terrifying strength to suppress Dugubatian's reputation. Compared to Ling Xiao's dazzling halo, everything seemed dim and dull. Sword God Hall was no longer as impressive as before. Rebellions had broken out everywhere, and the flames of war were spreading. However, it wasn't the army of the Sword Dynasty that went to suppress them, but rather the joint army of the 8 Immortals Kingdom and the dragonesque Mammoth Tribe. Sword God Hall's territory was being invaded, but Dugubatian didn't do anything. This caused many people to be extremely puzzled. Meanwhile, outside the Imperial Palace, a figure slowly approached. "Greetings, Crown Princess." Eunuch Gao looked at the beautiful woman in front of him and bowed. "Where is His Majesty?" The Crown Princess asked. After the battle outside the Devil Dragon Sword Court, Dugubatian had died, but she had escaped and returned to Sword God City. However, she didn't look sad at all. Instead, she looked excited. It was almost as if something good was about to happen. "His Majesty is waiting for you in the main hall. Please follow me, Crown Princess." Eunuch Gao opened the door and walked in. Chapter 32-39. The door to the main hall was closed again. Eunuch Gao looked inside, and then closed his eyes. See no evil, hear no evil. That was the principle he had lived by for many years. It was the only way he could live longer. You still have the face to come back. Dugubatian sat there on his throne, looking as domineering as ever, as if the death of his son, Dugu Shengjian, hadn't changed at all. He looked coldly at the crown princess below and asked coldly, "Why can't I come back?" She said with a smile, "Back when the Ice Dynasty was in chaos, the imperial family was slaughtered, and you fled to the Sword Dynasty, where I took you in. In fact, I married you to Dugu Shengjian. You would have been the mother of all under heaven, and might even have had a chance to take back the position of empress. But you just watched as the crown prince was killed, and did nothing." Dugubatian's voice was filled with viciousness. "Tell me, Murongqi, what exactly are you thinking?" The Murong clan had once been the imperial family of the Ice Dynasty, but had been usurped, and the Murong clan had been virtually wiped out. Murongqi was probably the only member of the Murong imperial clan who had managed to survive. "I like you, not Dugu Shengjian," Murongqi said coolly. "As far as I'm concerned, Dugu Shengjian is a piece of trash. But you're different. You're the only one who can help me restore my dynasty. What's the point of saying all that now? Dugu Batian said with a sigh. You're his wife. How could I possibly take away his future wife? You still haven't explained why you didn't do anything. Even if he's a piece of trash, you shouldn't have just watched him die. That's where you're wrong, Morongchi said. Everything happened too quickly, and I did try to help him. Sadly, I didn't succeed. By the time the dragon devil puppet pulled him into the void, it was too late. Morongchi also sighed. Considering how strong you are, you could definitely kill Ling Xiao and get revenge for my son. Morongchi nodded. Do you really think that's possible? That Ling Xiao killed a 5th division, life-seizing devil dragon puppet. I've been working hard all this time, and am now at the peak of the 5th division. He didn't want to fight a battle that he had no confidence in. What's more, the people of Tato Land are there. If they find out and tell the people of Ice Dynasty, do you think I can still live? Although my talent is outstanding, the Ice Dynasty is filled with experts, unlike the Sword Dynasty, which is trash. I don't want to be killed before I've grown up. Dugubajian fell silent. Although Murongchi's words were unreasonable, it was very reasonable. His son had already died, and he didn't want to lose Murongchi. Helplessly shaking his head, he said, What do you plan to do next? Get the Fiend God token and go to the immemorial divine tomb. Only there can I surpass them and become stronger, even surpassing the warriors of the Ice Dynasty. Otherwise, if I continue to stay in the Sword Dynasty, I will definitely have no hope of turning things around. Morongchi replied, You know how dangerous that place is. There are countless treasures, resources, and opportunities. However, the people who went there usually had a slim chance of survival. Only a handful of them actually made it back alive. Dugubajian frowned. However, those that survived were all exceptional talents. The reason why the Ice Dynasty had such a change back then was because there were people that returned alive from the immemorial divine tomb and became incomparably powerful. Murongchi's eyes flashed with determination. It seems there's no point in trying to persuade you. However, you should know that other than the Sword Dynasty, none of the 9 paragons are weak. They're all terrifying giants. Peak 5th stage life-seizing? In the eyes of others, they're nothing but trash. Dugubajian chuckled coldly. But if you're determined to go, then come with me. The Sword Dynasty only has 3 Fiend God tokens, but that should be enough for the 2 of us. You have the Fiend God tokens? Morongchi asked. How could that be? Dugubajian said with a wry smile. Why do you think I haven't sent troops to the Dragon Mammoth tribe? Is it really because I'm afraid of Ling Xiao? No, that's not it. The Fiend God and Fiend God envoys showed up and told me that the situation in the Sword Dynasty has changed. Therefore, they've set up a fighting ring for the 3 Fiend God tokens. When? Morongchi asked. In a month, the Fiend God and Fiend God envoys will release the energy of the Fiend God envoys. When that happens, the Sword Dynasty will have a location with a Taiji symbol. Dugubajian added, All right, got it. Morongchi nodded, then turned and left. After all these years of lying low, she had finally reached the 5th stage of life-seizing. No matter what, she had to get the Fiend God tokens and enter the primeval god, Necropolis. The Dragon Mammoth tribe. How's the investigation going? Ling Xiao asked, looking at Wolfhead, the captain of the Sharp Blade Special Forces. Reporting to the Emperor, there are already clues. Just 3 days ago, a group of strangers appeared in a small city about 10 miles away from the Dragon Elephant tribe. They were very domineering, and as soon as they arrived, they occupied the city magistrate's mansion and killed the city magistrate. Someone saw that one of them had left the small town today and returned later, but there seemed to be 2 more people with him. Wolfhead reported, Map, Ling Xiao said coldly. As far as he was concerned, the dragon mammoth tribe was like a brother to him. Therefore, if someone dared to kidnap him, then that meant they had something to do with Ling Xiao. He didn't care who they were or where they came from. He had to save them. This is the place. Wolfhead pointed at a small town on the map. Sectuncle, I'll leave this place to you for now. I'll be right back. Now that he knew where the dragon mammoth tribe was being held, he had no choice but to fly there. Why don't we just surround the town? It's our territory now, Haim Myung-keo suggested. No, that would alert the enemy. Ling Xiao shook his head. I'll go alone. If I run into any trouble, I'll contact you. When it comes to staying alive, no one in the world can compare to me. All right, you must be careful, Emperor. Ling Xiao nodded and stepped out of the command center. He rose into the air like a phoenix soaring through the 9 heavens, flying in the direction of the small city. Brother Dragon Mammoth, wait for me. No matter who it is, I'll let him taste the price of death this time. Ling Xiao's eyes were full of killing intent. The person who kidnapped the Dragon Mammoth tribe was extremely ruthless. He only hoped that the Dragon Mammoth tribe hadn't been killed yet. Otherwise, even if he killed all of them, it would be of no use. For Ling Xiao, the distance of 5 kilometers was covered in an instant. When he arrived near the small town, he landed and walked towards the small town. At this moment, the town had become a ghost town. Chapter 3240. Stop. Who are you? How dare you trespass into my Wan Gui territory? The moment Ling Xiao stepped into the small city, more than a dozen martial artists suddenly appeared. These people were clearly the garrison of the Sword Dynasty in the small city. Later, they surrendered to the 8 Immortals' kingdom. Who would have thought that they would surrender to the Wan Gua today? The people of the Wan Gua were really arrogant. They came to the Sword Dynasty and casually occupied a city and said that it was the territory of the Wan Gua. They were powerful and didn't need to be reasoned with. 8 Immortals' Kingdom's Emperor Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao didn't hide his identity. He was here to save people. The sooner the other party knew, the sooner he could see the person in question. Ling Xiao. Hearing that the person who came was actually Ling Xiao, those martial artists threw down their weapons and turned to run. They were originally a group of good-for-nothings. Today, they surrendered to this, and tomorrow they would surrender to that. There was no loyalty to speak of. Ling Xiao sneered and blasted out a palm. The monstrous poison spread among the crowd. In the blink of an eye, those people were all poisoned to death. If these people were just people who surrendered to the Wan Gua, he wouldn't be so ruthless. But the hundreds of thousands of people in this small city were all gone. Although they might not necessarily be dead, they definitely encountered something terrible. These martial artists actually helped the people of the Wan Gua to harm their own people. Ling Xiao couldn't tolerate it. After killing those martial artists, he walked straight to the city lord's mansion. In front of the city lord's mansion, there were still sentries. Except here, the other places were lifeless. Ling Xiao didn't even bother to talk nonsense. He directly blasted open the gate of the city lord's mansion and killed the sentries. Not to mention that he was in a very bad mood now. Even if he was in a good mood, it was absolutely impossible to let go of these fickle trash who harmed his own people. In the city lord's mansion, the security was even stricter. As soon as Ling Xiao entered, he was surrounded. Xiang Fei walked out triumphantly and looked at Ling Xiao indifferently. Lord Xiangshan had long expected that you would come to save people, so he set up a heavy ambush here early in the morning. You can come today, but don't think about going back alive. With just you and this trash, Ling Xiao looked at Xiang Fei mockingly. Of course not. Xiang Fei opened up a path, and a person walked out from inside. This person held a broad broadsword in his hand, and the skin on his face was like the bark of a withered tree. A 5th Division life-sizer? It seems weaker than the demonic dragon puppet. Ling Xiao frowned. What was going on these days? 5th Division. Life-seizers were worthless? The demonic dragon puppet was still acceptable, but this fellow was clearly a martial artist. Wanggu Chindadao. That person said coldly, "Report your name." "Chindadao? You're not Xiangshan?" Ling Xiao was even more shocked. The myriad kingdoms definitely deserved to be called a major power. They were far more powerful than the Sword Dynasty, with 5th Division life-seizers everywhere they went. Lord Xiangshan is not someone a nobody like you can meet. He has already brought Long Xiang to Sword God City. Chindadao said coldly, "Why are they going to Sword God City?" Ling Xiao asked, "You know about martial soul transplants, right? Lord Xiangshan is interested in Long Xiang's king of Dracomammoth's martial soul, so he's going to Sword God City for a transplant." Xiang Fei chuckled. So that's how it is. Ling Xiao was starting to get nervous. It seemed he had to get this over with as quickly as possible. He didn't have time to dawdle. With Long Xiang in imminent danger, he unleashed his martial soul of tyrants. At the same time, he transformed into his unbounded heavenly rat beast soul and charged toward Chindadao with lightning speed. Chindadao could never have guessed that Ling Xiao would be so direct. Although he was in a hurry, he didn't panic much. He retreated a few meters and then slashed down with the saber in his hand. The revered ice sword slammed into Chindadao's broadsword, sending shockwaves out in all directions. Everyone in the area was in for a bad time. Only Xiang Fei was smart enough to hide behind Chindadao and avoid the shockwaves. Everyone else was instantly reduced to nothing but ash. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of golden light shot out from Ling Xiao's spirit ring, piercing through Chindadao's body. The intense heat caused a gaping hole to appear in Chindadao's body. It was Little Gold. When Ling Xiao saw Little Gold, he couldn't have been happier. Little Gold glowed with golden light and was clearly much stronger than before. Ever since he had devoured the artificial red sun in the bloodthirsty sword mound, he had been in a state of cultivation. Now that he was awake, his battle prowess was at the peak of the 5th Division of the life-seizing level. How could Chindadao possibly have dodged his sneak attack? No. How could trash from the Sword Dynasty be so strong? Chindadao couldn't believe that he had died so easily at the hands of trash from the Sword Dynasty. Didn't they say that the Sword Dynasty didn't have any powerful experts? Didn't they say that they could act like tyrants here? So it was all a lie. A majestic 5th Division, life-sizer, slumped to the ground, never to rise again. Seeing this scene, Xiang Fei immediately knelt on the ground. Ling Xiao, don't kill me. I'm trash. I'm scum. I beg of you. Nobody feared death, and Xiang Fei was no exception. His arrogance stemmed from the fact that he was backed by a powerful expert. But if Little Gold could kill a 5th Division life-sizer with a single move, then what did he have to rely on? Ling Xiao wasn't in the mood to waste words with him. Without any hesitation, he unleashed his 4-leaf devil eyes. Who's Xiangshan? Is he really from the myriad kingdoms? Ling Xiao asked coldly. The exalted Xiangshan is from the Dracomammoth tribe, and is at the peak of the 5th Division of the life-seizing level. Although, to the Dracomammoth tribe, that doesn't count for much. The dragon mother of the myriad kingdoms is the chief of the Dracomammoth tribe, and the empress of the myriad kingdoms. Xiang Fei's response was very detailed. Once Ling Xiao used a soul search on him, all he had to do was give Ling Xiao a lead, and Xiang Fei would tell him everything he knew. You can go die now. Ling Xiao said coldly. Last time, the Dracomammoth had begged for mercy, and Xiang Fei had been spared. But this time, no matter what, Xiang Fei had to die. Even as the words left his mouth, Xiang Fei grabbed a sword off the ground and slit his own throat. Even still, Ling Xiao couldn't vent his anger. Burning Xiang Fei to ash, he hopped onto Little Gold's back and sped off in the direction of Sword God City. If the Dracomammoths had their martial souls extracted, they would either die or become mentally disabled. Therefore, no matter what, Yang Qi had to get them out before that happened. If gods got in his way, he would kill gods. If Buddhas got in his way, he would kill Buddhas. Xiao Jin's speed was extremely fast, but even though the two of them hurried, they still didn't manage to catch up to that so-called Elephant Mountain. Now that they were in Sword God City, Ling Xiao didn't need to sneak around like last time. Instead, he went straight to the chief of the city guard and asked about the situation. "Don't tell me you're talking about that expert over there." All of a sudden, a terrifying aura filled the air, and a shadowy figure appeared off in the distance. Chapter 3241. "That's him," Ling Xiao said. Although he didn't recognize Mammoth Mountain, he recognized Dragon Mammoth. Now that Dragon Mammoth was being held hostage, there was no need to ask who he was. Ling Xiao was just about to make a move when he sensed a powerful aura from the Imperial Palace. Dugubajian had appeared. Ling Xiao frowned, then reined in his aura and waited for the right moment to strike. Most likely, Dugubajian was a 5th Division life-sizer, and Mammoth Mountain was also in the 5th Division. If Ling Xiao were to charge out now, he would be caught in a pincer attack from both of them. That wouldn't be worth it. Since Dragon Mammoth wasn't in any immediate danger, Yang Qi decided to observe the situation. If things went south, then he would make his move. "So, you're Emperor Dugubajian of the Sword Dynasty?" Mammoth Mountain said, looking down at Dugubajian with complete disdain. Dugubajian hovered there in midair, his face cold and emotionless. His eyes were filled with cunning and intelligence. He had ruled the Sword Dynasty for hundreds of years, and no one had ever succeeded in wresting control from him. Whether it was in terms of strength or scheming, he was terrifying. "Who are you, sire?" Dugubajian asked coolly. "You don't need to know," Mammoth Mountain said coolly. "Just give up your position and submit to me." Mammoth Mountain's arrogance was beyond imagination. The experts in Sword God City were all discussing the situation, and were convinced that this man was even more arrogant than Ling Xiao had been in the past. He actually dared to make Dugubajian hand over the position of emperor. "You must be joking, sire," Mammoth Mountain said. "The Sword Dynasty has existed for 10,000 years. There's a reason why it exists. Not even Dragon Mother of the Myriad Kingdoms would dare to force me to abdicate. You're far too arrogant." Dugubajian looked disdainfully at Mammoth Mountain. Truth be told, he could tell that Mammoth Mountain was from the Dracomammoth clan. Bullshit like that might work on a kid, but it won't work on me, Mammoth Mountain. Mammoth Mountain laughed heartily. For generations, the Myriad Kingdoms had told their descendants that the Sword Dynasty was weak enough to be bullied and humiliated, but that didn't mean they shouldn't try to take it for themselves, unless there was a change in their own ranks. However, Xiang Shan did not believe such a warning at all. He felt that those old fellows were too stubborn and useless. "I still have to believe the words of the elderly," Dugubajian said indifferently. "We will definitely not give the throne to you. However, if you want something else, we might be able to give it to you on account of the Myriad Kingdom Dragon Mother." Even if he knelt down and begged for mercy, now he wasn't afraid of being laughed at, because the people of Sword Dynasty knew how terrifying the other 8 great powers were. Their emperor was nothing in the eyes of others. If the other party only wanted something, he wouldn't mind giving it to the other party. After all, it was better to make a friend than to have more enemies. After all, the immemorial divine tomb was about to open soon, and he had to focus on that. I want everything else, but I need the throne even more. Xiangshan did not back down. Xiangshan was really overbearing. He thought that he could disregard the martial artists of Sword Dynasty just because he came from one country. Even if he asked Dugabajian to kneel, Dugabajian would probably agree. However, giving up the throne was out of the question. That was Dugabajian's bottom line. So, you're saying you're going to take it by force? Dugabajian said, his eyes flickering with terrifying killing intent. After all, Ling Xiao and Jian Fulong had caused a huge ruckus in Sword God City. Dugabajian's reputation had been severely damaged. That day, he had been on the verge of a breakthrough and hadn't wanted to interrupt his cultivation. But now that he had, and Xiangshan didn't know what was good for him, he had no choice but to play along. So what if I take it by force? I'd advise you not to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If you give up the throne, I'll let you serve me, and you'll still be rich and powerful. But if you insist on making an enemy of me, then don't blame me for being vicious and merciless. Xiangshan chuckled coldly. Vicious and merciless? Go ahead and try. You're just a 5th division life-sizer. Do you really think you can cause trouble in Sword Dynasty? If Xiangshan had been a 6th division life-sizer, Dugabajian wouldn't have dared to fight him head-on. But he was only a 5th division life-sizer. What did he have to fear? Dugabajian's dragon. Robes fluttered even though there was no wind. His bloodthirsty demon sword glowed with blood-red light. A terrifying killing intent filled the air. Good. Very good. I never would have guessed that the Emperor of Sword Dynasty would be such a tough nut to crack. How dare you challenge the might of the sacred dynasty of all kingdoms? Since that's the case, I guess I'll just have to kill you and take your throne. Maybe you want to take the God-Devil medallion and head to the primeval god, Necropolis. But let me tell you, you have no chance. Those 3 medallions are only for those who are loyal to me. Xiangshan casually tossed the Dracomamoth out of the way. Someone jumped out of the crowd and caught it. Ling Xiao saw what was happening and realized that the person who caught the Dracomamoth was an expert on the same level as Chun Dedeo. He was also a 5th division life-sizer, although he was only in the early 5th division. Someone like that could be easily killed by Xiao Jin. And yet, Ling Xiao didn't make a move. He wanted to wait for the 2 of them to begin fighting, and then make his move. Finally, Dugabajian made the first move. He waved his bloodthirsty demon sword, sending out a terrifying beam of sword energy. It was none other than the monarch Hegemon sword. The sword chi filled the air, but Dugabajian did not stop there. At the same time, he also pounced out, moving side by side with the sword chi towards Xiangshan. Do it, Xiao Jin. Ling Xiao knew that his chance had come, so he summoned Xiao Jin. In that moment, no one realized what the dazzling golden light represented. Mammoth Mountain didn't know. Only now did he realize that Dugabajian wasn't someone to be trifled with. Therefore, he had no choice but to throw himself into the fight. Boss, he's back, Xiao Jin said, flying back with Dracomamoth in hand. Ling Xiao placed him in his spirit ring, but didn't leave. Mammoth Mountain versus Dugabajian. This was a rare fight between 2 experts, and both were his enemies. Therefore, he wanted to see how strong they were. Mammoth Mountain easily dodged Dugabajian's attack. Following that, the battle between the 2 quickly entered a stalemate. Up in the air, 2 figures, one yellow and one blue, could be seen flickering. Cultivators under the life-seizing level didn't have enough eyesight to see what was going on. And yet, Ling Xiao could easily see them. Of course, he had to admit that even if he used his heaven-dominating martial soul, he still wouldn't be a match for them. unless he made a breakthrough. But that was exactly the kind of opponent he liked. They couldn't kill him easily, but he could always make breakthroughs as he fought them. I really can't wait to give this a try. Ling Xiao didn't feel the slightest bit of fear in the face of such powerful opponents. In fact, he was excited. Chapter 3242. Do you understand now, Mammoth Mountain? Considering how strong you are, there's no way you can surpass the Sword Dynasty. If we keep fighting, we'll both end up injured, and neither of us will have the upper hand. But this is my Sword Dynasty, and you'll end up worse off than me. The more Dugabatian fought, the fiercer he got. After all, he was much older than Mammoth Mountain, and was a wily old fox. The longer this went on, the worse off Mammoth Mountain would be. Of course, Dugabatian knew that if he wanted to defeat Mammoth Mountain, he would have to be seriously injured. He didn't want Ling Xiao and the others to take advantage of the situation. So what do you want? Mammoth Mountain asked, frowning. He had assumed that the strongest person in the Sword Dynasty was only in the 4th division of life seizing. But now he realized that Dugabatian was in the 5th division of life seizing. Furthermore, his fighting prowess was no weaker than Mammoth Mountain's. I've said it before. Whatever you want, we can discuss. Other than the throne, anything else is fine. Dugabatian said, Can I have the God-Devil medallion? Mammoth Mountain asked. Of course, Dugabatian replied. The Sword Dynasty has 3 God-Devil medallions. 1 for me, 1 for you, and 1 for my daughter-in-law. Look, Mammoth Mountain. Boss, Little Gold said, it looks like those 2 bastards are going to join forces. Don't worry. An alliance like that is built for the sake of profit. It'll only take a moment for it to fall apart. Besides, so what if they join forces? With you and me here, they can't do anything. Besides, they're focused on the God-Devil medallion and won't be interested in attacking the Dragon Mammoth tribe. Ling Xiao shook his head, his eyes still fixed on the 2 figures. Apparently, Mammoth Mountain was convinced by Dugabatian's words. Fine, he said. Give me the God-Devil medallion and help me get a martial soul transplant. Then I'll leave. That won't do. I don't have the God-Devil medallion, Dugabatian explained. The God-Devil emissaries haven't given it out yet. Instead, they're planning to hold a competition in the Sword Dynasty. Whoever is strong enough will take the medallion. Dugabatian. After all this time, you were King lying to me? Xiangshan was completely infuriated. He felt that he had been fooled by Dugabatian and was instantly enraged. Dragon Elephant transformation, Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. With a thunderous roar, Xiangshan transformed into his draconic elephant battle form. His body abruptly enlarged as he blasted out a punch. It was as though an ancient draconic elephant had collided with each other. The might of his punch was extremely shocking. The terrifying fist print had already covered half of the sky. Bloodthirsty swordsmanship. Kill. The bloodthirsty swordsmanship, a medium general realm martial art, was a unique skill that Dugabatian had spent hundreds of years on. Together with the bloodthirsty demonic sword, its power was even comparable to a high-level general-level martial technique. When he executed it, half of the sky turned blood red. A huge blood sword pierced towards Elephant Mountain. A roar exploded in the sky. The buildings in Sword God City continued to collapse. This terrifying attack really seemed like the end of the world. Countless civilians began to flee the city. This Dugabatian doesn't care about the civilians at all. I can't believe he's starting a fight in Sword God City. He really isn't fit to be an emperor. Ling Xiao frowned as he followed the fleeing crowd. After all, he could clearly see what was going on from the outside. He had to admit that Dugabatian was far stronger than that piece of trash Dugashengjian. Dugashengjian had a sage body, but no heart of a powerful expert. It was truly lamentable. Dugabajian was different. After all, he had only just broken through to the 5th division of life seizing, and yet he was able to go toe-to-toe with Elephant Mountain, who was at the peak of the 5th division. That alone was worthy of admiration. Unfortunately, Dugabajian was an enemy. Otherwise, Ling Xiao would have liked to be friends with him. The clash between the two didn't result in a clear victor. Both of them were injured, but not seriously. I'm warning you one last time. Get the hell out of Sword God City. Otherwise, I won't show any mercy. Dugabajian said, clearly starting to get impatient. You're just the emperor of a puny little sword dynasty. What can you possibly do to me? If we keep fighting, you won't have as much true energy left as I do. You'll be the one to lose. Of course, Elephant Mountain wasn't going to back down. He had come from all the kingdoms for the God-Devil Medallion and the throne of the Sword Dynasty. Dragon Mother had given him orders to do so. If he couldn't accomplish them, how could he possibly have the face to report back to her? Since you're so stubborn, I guess you can just die. Dugabajian took a deep breath, causing terrifying power to erupt from his bloodthirsty devil sword. It was filled with an aura of death and resentment. Even from 1,000 meters away, the terrifying aura was enough to cause anyone to tremble in fear. By this point, Sword God City was virtually empty. Everyone, including the imperial family, had already left. The city was on the verge of collapsing at any moment. In a battle between two 5th Division life seizers, not even sword gods or sword sages would be able to put up much of a fight. Now, I understand why Dugabajian killed so many people and why he built the bloodthirsty sword mound. Ling Xiao's brow was furrowed. Although the terrifying battlefield didn't strike fear into him, it did strike fear into his heart. What's going on, boss? Little Jean asked. That bloodthirsty devil sword is filled with the vengeful souls and resentment of countless people, Dugabajian explained. I can't believe Dugabajian is using the power of death. That guy is crazy. Ling Xiao explained. He's using the dead to get stronger. Little Jean said, shocked. That's right, Dugabajian said. That bloodthirsty devil sword is different from when it was in the bloodthirsty sword mound. Not only is it filled with blood energy, but it's also filled with an aura of death. Ling Xiao nodded. I'm afraid Mammoth Mountain is going to die beyond the shadow of a doubt. Dugabajian is strong enough to fight Mammoth Mountain to a standstill. If he uses the power of death in his bloodthirsty devil sword, he'll surpass Mammoth Mountain in battle prowess and be close to the 6th division of life seizing. It didn't take long for his speculations to become reality. By this point, Dugabajian's skin had turned completely red. He looked like a monster. Don't tell me he's turned himself into a blood devil? Little Jean could sense the terrifying aura radiating off of Dugabajian. That should be the case, Dugabajian said. He's a human, and he's been absorbing the power of death for hundreds of years. His body wouldn't be able to handle it. He'd have to turn himself into a monster. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth as he realized that Dugabajian really was willing to do anything to get stronger. Prepare to die, Mammoth Mountain from the myriad kingdoms. Dugabajian's voice became strange. It was thick and filled with a terrifying and gloomy aura. I can only use a tiny bit of the power of the bloodthirsty devil sword, but it's more than enough to kill you. Are you really that confident? Chapter 32:43. Do you think you can kill me like this? Xiang Shan was not afraid of Dugabajian, who had used the power of the dead. Instead, he transformed into a huge dracophant, emitting an ancient aura. Of course, I originally planned to use these things in the immemorial divine tomb. Now that I've used them on you, it can be considered as testing their power. Dugabajian sneered. As they spoke, the battle erupted again. After using the power of the dead, Dugabajian's strength skyrocketed, and he began to suppress Xiang Shan in all aspects. Although Xiang Shan's Dracfen's combat strength had increased, it was still lacking compared to the power of the dead. Originally, the two of them were evenly matched, but now Dugabajian had the upper hand. Xiang Shan's situation was getting worse and worse. If not for the Dracofen's thick skin, he would have been seriously injured. Is this considered cheating? Xiao Jin smiled bitterly and said, "It's impossible for this power to have no side effects. Otherwise, it would be too abnormal." Indeed, there are no side effects. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, "If there is one, it's because Dugabajian has refined his body into a blood demon body. He can't use many human martial skills. Moreover, the power of the dead consumes a lot of physical strength. He won't be able to maintain this crazy state for long." So that's how it is. Xiao Jin looked at the battle again. Just as Ling Xiao had analyzed, Dugabajian was eager to end the battle because the power of the dead consumed too much of his body. "Die! Die! Die!" Dugabajian roared. His originally calm face became incomparably serious. Blood-red light constantly flashed on his body, and there were even black dead souls trying to escape from his body. It could be seen that his strength had skyrocketed, but he had to spend a lot of energy to suppress those dead souls. Damn it! Let's see how long you can last. Xiang Shan was not a weakling. At this point, he could only go all out. It was impossible to escape. Once he did, he would give his back to his opponent and become a target. He could only fight now. Ling Xiao watched the battle excitedly. Suddenly, he frowned. Golden Dragon Seal. Dugabajian is going to use the Golden Dragon Seal. Back then, he had only learned of the existence of the Golden Dragon Seal, a high-level general martial technique from Jian Fulong. Unlike the bloodthirsty swordsmanship, whose power was close to that of a high-level general realm martial technique, this was a genuine high-level general realm martial technique. If Xiang Shan is hit by this move, he will definitely die. Ling Xiao could feel how terrifying the Golden Dragon Seal was. At this moment, a large amount of true yuan gushed out of Dugabajian's body. It turned into a dazzling golden light. The golden light gradually condensed into the shape of a golden dragon in the sky. "Die, Xiang Shan, let this Golden Dragon Seal end your life." Roar. The golden dragon let out a resonant dragon roar and pounced towards Xiang Shan. In that instant, the weather changed. The entire Sword Master City was enveloped in golden light. Ling Xiao knew very well that he couldn't block such a powerful attack. Even if he activated all of his defensive skills, it would still be useless. Unless he used Life Rewind, he would definitely die. This move was too powerful. Not only did it use all of Dugabajian's strength, but it also used the power of the dead. How could Xiang Shan block it? Damn it, how can this guy be so powerful? Xiang Shan's expression changed drastically when he saw the huge golden dragon pouncing towards him. He really regretted it now. It was unwise to make an enemy out of Dugabajian without understanding him. However, he couldn't admit defeat just like that. He was a martial artist of the 10,000 countries Dragonesque Elephant Clan. How could he lose to a useless emperor of the Sword Dynasty? Dragonesque Elephant Divine Fist, 800 Dragonesque elephants. As he roared, Dragonesque Elephant also used all of his true yuan in this attack. A terrifying gale whistled violently around his body. He punched out with both fists. Between heaven and earth, 800 huge Dragonesque elephant phantoms appeared and pounced towards Dugabajian's golden dragon. No matter what, he had to tear this golden dragon apart. Otherwise, if that terrifying power bombarded his body, he would definitely die. Dugabajian's martial technique was a high-level general realm martial technique. Xiang Shan's martial technique was also a high-level general realm martial technique. From this, one could see the decline of the Sword Dynasty. In the entire Sword Dynasty, only the emperor knew a high-level general realm martial technique. And in the 10,000 countries, any martial artist with a little talent could cultivate a high-level general realm martial technique. 800 dragonesque elephants collided with the golden dragon seal in the sky. A stalemate. Golden light and white light constantly devoured each other and canceled each other out. But one had to admit that Dugubejian, who had the power of the dead, was still too powerful. Even though their martial technique levels were the same, his golden dragon was still constantly devouring those dragonesque elephants. However, the power of a high-level general realm martial technique could not be underestimated. Xiangshan crazily attacked, wanting to see who would exhaust who to death first. What Dugubejian was most afraid of was the consumption of the power of the dead. And Xiangshan's continuous dragonesque elephant divine fist was constantly consuming his true yuan. Whichever side couldn't withstand it first would be the side that would be defeated. Boss, who do you think will lose? Xiaojin asked. If this goes on, the first one to lose will definitely be Dugubejian. His consumption is too great. Ling Xiao said, but if I were Dugubejian, I would absorb more power of the dead at all costs and strive to take down Xiangshan in one fell swoop. Before his voice fell, Dugubejian seemed to be connected with his mind. Sure enough, he absorbed more power of the dead from the bloodthirsty demonic sword. At that moment, black threads appeared on the golden dragon's body. The power of the golden dragon also soared several times in an instant. Boom! Xiangshan finally couldn't resist and was sent flying by the terrifying power. And this was because of the 800 dragonesque elephants. If he had been hit directly, even he would have been beaten half to death at this moment. The older the ginger, the spicier it is. If there are no accidents, Dugubejian will definitely win. Ling Xiao sighed. On the path of martial arts, to reach the peak, one's lifespan was indispensable. Generally speaking, most martial artists who had not reincarnated had a lifespan of less than 200 years, unless they had consumed special pills or treasures. And after that, every time they reincarnated, their lifespan would increase by 200 years. In other words, a first transition martial artist actually had a lifespan of about 400 years. A martial artist who had gone through 10 reincarnations could live up to more than 2,000 years. Dugubejian had already lived for more than 300 years, and his lifespan was basically coming to an end. So there was nothing he could be afraid of. He wanted to go to the immemorial divine tomb to break through his strength as soon as possible, and then strive to live longer. Rumor had it that once a martial artist cultivated to the reincarnation divine realm, their life would stop aging until the next reincarnation. Chapter 3244. Dugubejian wanted to break through to the reincarnation god realm as soon as possible so that he could have an ageless body. Of course, there were conditions. If a martial artist couldn't break through to the next level, not only would they begin to age, but they would also age faster. It was as if the magical laws of heaven and earth were there to push a martial artist to become stronger, rather than being stuck in the same old rut. Mammoth Mountain was still struggling, but he was clearly an arrow at the end of its flight. Stubbornly resisting is useless. You came all the way to the Sword Dynasty. Do you think the people here are easy to bully? Unfortunately, you're wrong. Very wrong. Dugubejian's cold voice echoed through the air. The golden dragon smashed through all of the Dracomamoth projections, then slammed into Mammoth Mountain. Ling Xiao chuckled at the sight of Mammoth Mountain. All of a sudden, he thought of Wang Quan. Back then, Wang Quan Tianming had gone to the Eight Immortals' kingdom and even destroyed the Eight Immortals' city, wanting to kill him. But in the end, Ling Xiao had killed him with the Black Devil. Sometimes in the mystic world, Even a lion might not be able to defeat a rabbit. After all, the rabbit might have some secret magic that could turn itself into a ferocious monster. Mammoth Mountain was pitiful, but Ling Xiao didn't think he deserved to die. He was a complete idiot. He didn't even know Dugubejian's background, yet he was so aggressive that he wanted to steal the throne. Now he was an idiot. Dragon Mother, save me. Xiang Shan let out a mournful cry before he died. If he had known things would turn out like this, he wouldn't have come here to die. Rumble! The golden dragon tore through Mammoth Mountain's body, and he transformed into a rain of blood that rained down on Sword God City. 3 fifth-stage life seizers from the myriad kingdoms had thought they could control the Sword Dynasty. In the end, 2 of them were killed by Little Gold, and 1 by Dugubejian. They didn't even cause a ripple before they were gone. The sight of Mammoth Mountain's death caused everyone in Sword God City to cheer. The only reason they could live in Sword God City was because they were related to the imperial family. If they didn't support Dugubejian, who would they support? Dugubejian slowly withdrew the power of the dead. At this moment, his complexion was deathly pale. Clearly, he had overexerted himself. If it had been any later, the one who would have died would not have been Xiang Shan, but him. Boss, should we take this opportunity to kill this old thing? Xiao Jin asked. You hide, and I'll take action. Because I don't know who's behind Dugubejian. I'll choose to run if there's any danger. It's best if you don't come out. The legendary ancestor doesn't exist at all. Let's work together to kill Dugubejian. Ling Xiao was very cautious, especially when he saw Xiang Shan being killed by Dugubejian. He understood one thing. When it came to forces that he didn't understand, it was best not to expose himself if he could. Since the other party has a trump card, you have to have even more trump cards. Otherwise, the odds are against you. After the 2 of them came to an agreement, Ling Xiao suddenly soared into the sky. Without another word, he took out the ice-revered sword and charged over. Dugubejian was recuperating when he suddenly felt a powerful aura break through the air. Startled, he assumed that Xiang Shan wasn't dead. But then, he realized that it was Ling Xiao. It's you, Dugubejian said, breathing a sigh of relief. Although Ling Xiao was incredibly talented and had even destroyed a devil dragon puppet, rumors were just rumors. How could he possibly compare to a true 5th division life-sizer like Xiang Shan? That's right, it's me. Ling Xiao immediately entered the everlasting heavenly mouse beast soul transformation state and released all of his other beast souls. He used his strongest state aside from the sky tyrant martial soul to fight Dugubejian. Do you want to follow in Xiang Shan's footsteps? Dugubejian asked angrily. At the moment, he was very weak, and Ling Xiao had chosen to attack him at the wrong time. All he could do was threaten Dugubejian with words. But how could Ling Xiao possibly be scared? Dugubejian had no choice but to dodge, and his body was already riddled with wounds. Your Majesty, we're here to help you. Eunuch Gao and the other ministers of the Sword Dynasty flew up into the air, hoping to stop Ling Xiao and give Dugubejian a chance to recover. You pieces of trash, Dugubejian said. Other than Eunuch Gao, none of you are even close to being my match. Ling Xiao blurred into motion, not bothering to fight. He used the evading sword-light steps to evade them, then stabbed his sword into Dugubejian's abdomen. Blood sprayed out. Dugubejian howled in agony. He couldn't control the bloodthirsty demon sword in his hand. A large amount of undead power surged out of the bloodthirsty demon sword and poured into Dugubejian's body. In that moment, Dugubejian's body grew larger, and his previously blood-red skin turned a greenish-black. He seemed to have lost consciousness, and yet he was terrifyingly strong. Suddenly, a palm slapped toward him. It moved so quickly that not even Ling Xiao's evading sword-light steps could evade it. He had no choice but to block with his sword. Bam! The palm slapped Dugabajian, sending him crashing into the ground of the imperial city. The martial artists in Sword God City applauded. However, before the experts up in the air could even mock Ling Xiao, they sensed that something was wrong. The terrifying slap was like swatting a mosquito, swatting towards them. Among the crowd, only Eunuch Gao managed to escape. The rest were all smashed into meat patties. "Are you all right, boss? Something's wrong with Dugabajian." Little Gold asked from within the spirit ring. Something's wrong. Before, he was the one controlling the bloodthirsty demon sword. But now, it's the sword that's controlling him. He's completely lost his mind. He's turned into a monster. Ling Xiao crawled to his feet, feeling as if several of his ribs had been broken. However, he didn't seem to be in the least bit of a bad mood, because with this slap, he actually broke through. He was now in the third stage of the life-seizing level. Earlier, he had been accumulating power in his sea of cultivation, and had been missing an opportunity like this. Who could have guessed that he would break through like this? He really had to thank Dugabajian. "Do you still want to fight, boss?" Little Gold asked. "Of course I do. This guy might have lost his mind, but his fighting prowess has skyrocketed. He's perfect for a sparring partner." Ling Xiao looked excitedly at the monster that was 7 to 8 meters tall. It was clearly a human, but it was shaped like a sphere. Let's see what a first cycle life-sizer can do. Ling Xiao took a step forward and once again flew up into the air. Earlier, when the monster had slapped him, he hadn't been able to evade. But now that he had broken through, things were different. He could sense that his speed, strength, and perception had all improved. Now, when the monster's palm slapped him, he could react in the blink of an eye. Chapter 3245. You've turned yourself into an idiot by trying to use forbidden power, haven't you? After reaching the third stage of the life-seizing level, Ling Xiao's fighting prowess had skyrocketed. Even if he had to face the monster that had sent him flying with a single slap, he would be able to handle it with ease. The revered ice sword in his hand was like a scalpel, constantly slicing the monster in front of him. However, the monster seemed to be affected by the power of the revenants. Even when it was sliced open, the wounds would heal in an instant. It was practically immortal. However, Ling Xiao noticed one thing. Every time he attacked, a bit of revenant power would escape from the wound, but instead of returning to the bloodthirsty demon sword, it would disappear into the sky. Most likely, it would go to paradise. Rumor had it that when evil people died, they would go to the underworld. When ordinary people and good people died, they would go to paradise. When devils became devils, they would go to the devil world. When immortals became immortals, they would go to the immortal world. Of course, Ling Xiao didn't know if the rumor was true or not. All he knew was that the souls had transformed into white light and disappeared. The revenant power had also disappeared. Ling Xiao was certain that if this continued, the monster Dugubatian had transformed into its soon collapse. However, at that very moment, something strange happened. Ling Xiao suddenly retreated a few hundred meters, looking in the direction of the imperial palace in horror. There, a huge shadow crawled out from the ground. Its entire body seemed to be flowing with boiling lava. It was a bizarre sight. It looked very human, but it was so huge that it was at least a dozen meters tall. His eyes were burning with magma-like flames. "You disappoint me, Dugubatian." The monster spoke in the human tongue. Then it opened its mouth and inhaled. Large amounts of revenant power flew into its mouth. Dugubatian quickly returned to normal, but he was clearly weak. "Patriarch, you finally awakened," Dugubatian said excitedly. "It took me hundreds of years to awaken you. Our sword dynasty is saved. So, are you going to make a final contribution to me?" The huge monster absorbed almost all of Dugubajian's undead energy and said coldly, Ling Xiao originally thought that he was going to face an attack, but he didn't expect things to develop in a strange direction. Thus, he retreated to the side and observed the situation. Old ancestor, feel free to instruct me. As long as it's something you need, I'll definitely do it, Dugubajian said. Ha 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 ha, that's for the best. I want your body. Are you willing to give it to me? The giant monster laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Dugubajian's expression changed greatly. Ancestor, are you joking? If it weren't for me, you would have died hundreds of years ago. You wouldn't have been able to wake up. So what? Are you asking me to be grateful to you? The monster sneered. As a junior of the Sword Dynasty, you should give everything you have. What's more, once this old man has taken over your body, I can use your body to rule the entire Sword Empire, even the forces of the 9 Supremes, which are much stronger than you. You should be able to rest in peace. No, I don't want to die. I don't want it. Dugubajian's expression changed greatly. He had always thought that he had taken every conceivable possibility into account. However, he had never expected that the old ancestor whom he had always carefully protected and whom he thought to be his greatest backer would instead become his most terrifying enemy. That's not up to you. The monster sneered. Then, the giant body turned into a black smoke and pounced at Dugubajian. Dugubajian was already very weak, so he couldn't resist the black smoke at all. No, even if I have to self-destruct, I won't give my body to you. Dugubajian roared furiously as he resisted, but it was to no avail. The black smoke continued to pour into his body. At this moment, another person flew over from the sky. It was the crown princess, Murongqi. Murongqi, save me. This old thing is just a soul now. As long as we work together, we can kill him. Dugubajian roared, as if he had seen his savior. Work together with you? Why? With your strength. When will you be able to help my Murong clan restore the country? Murongqi looked coldly at Dugubajian and said, Thank you for taking care of me for so many years. Therefore, I won't kill you, but it's impossible for me to save you. You ungrateful bitch. If it wasn't for me, you would have died under the Ice Dynasty's pursuit. You actually betrayed me now. Dugubajian's heart turned cold. He didn't know what he had done wrong. The old ancestor that he had carefully protected wanted to take over his body. The crown princess Murongqi that he had protected and nurtured actually watched him die, without saving him. He was truly in despair. Your Majesty, this old servant will save you. Most of the cultivators who were originally loyal to Dugubajian looked at this scene in horror, not daring to do anything. Only the castrated eunuch Gao turned out to be a loyal and righteous person. He knew that he was no match for the monster, but he wasn't willing to stand by and watch. Ling Xiao really admired this old eunuch. No one would hate such a loyal person. Are you looking to die? Crown Princess Murongqi blurred into motion, appearing directly in front of eunuch Gao. Glaring coldly at him, she said, Get the hell out of here or die. As of this moment, Ling Xiao realized that the Crown Princess Murongqi had been putting on an act outside of the Devil Dragon Sword Court. Her true strength was most likely in the 5th division of the life-seizing level. In other words, she was far more terrifying than Dugubajian. Ignoring Murongqi's threat, eunuch Gao swung his horsetail whisk and attacked. In the end, he was like a moth drawn to a flame. Murongqi was far stronger than he was. With a single palm strike, she sent him flying. Most likely, he wasn't going to survive. Ling Xiao couldn't bear to see such a loyal person die. Blurring into motion, he appeared behind eunuch Gao and supported him. Eunuch Gao had assumed that Ling Xiao was going to take advantage of the situation to kill him. But to his surprise, not only did Ling Xiao not kill him, he even gave him a healing pill. "Why? Your loyalty is admirable," Yang Qi said coolly. Ling Xiao said indifferently, "Moreover, there isn't much enmity between you and me. We're just enemies. Please, I beg of you, save His Majesty. You're the only one who can save him." Eunuch Gao cried. "That's impossible," Ling Xiao said, shaking his head. "I can save you, but don't even think about saving Dugubejian." Yang Qi wasn't the type of person to be overly compassionate. He knew exactly what kind of person Dugubejian was. Although he was pitiful, he knew that it was just a dog-eat-dog situation. It didn't matter who died. It would only benefit Yang Qi. "Ling Xiao," Eunuch Gao said, "if you save me, I'll give you all of this country." Chapter 3246. "Jiangshan, there's no need for you to send me. I'll come and get it myself." Ling Xiao said indifferently, "Idiot, you're not a match for Morongqi. Once this old monster obtains my body, your dragon elephant tribe will be finished." Dugubejian roared, "Won't my dragon elephant tribe be finished if I save you? You're just about the same." Ling Xiao said sarcastically, "Don't waste your energy. You can continue messing around. I'll be leaving first." "Wait," Dugubejian suddenly shouted and threw the bloodthirsty demon sword at Ling Xiao. "Since you're not willing to save me, then avenge me." Ling Xiao caught the bloodthirsty demon sword and said with a smile, "Avenge you? I'm not that kind. However, I'll definitely kill this old monster. He's so ungrateful that he won't even let his own family off. This kind of person is a scourge to keep." "That's enough. Ha ha, ha ha ha, Duga Kanjing. I'll be leaving first. However, so what if you have my body? You'll die sooner or later. I'll wait for that day." Dugubejian knew that he was finished, but even so, he didn't want Dugu Kanjing to have an easy time. However, it was ironic that he had to place all his hopes on Ling Xiao. It was truly laughable. "Don't worry, after taking your body, this old man will naturally kill him as well." Dugu Kanjing suddenly sped up the process of possession. The terrifying black smoke made Dugubejian unable to speak anymore. Ling Xiao glanced at Eunuch Gao. "Let's go together, or you'll die." "No, take this with you. It's something that His Majesty asked me to keep. Since His Majesty is counting on you to take revenge, it's fine to give it to you. I've followed His Majesty for hundreds of years. If His Majesty dies, I'll go with him." Eunuch Gao shook his head and said with a firm tone, "All right." Although it was a pity, Ling Xiao knew that he couldn't stay here. Once Dugu Kanjing took over Dugubejian's body, no one knew how powerful he would become. Therefore, Ling Xiao really had to leave. "Can you leave?" Morongqi blocked Ling Xiao's way. You can't stop me." Ling Xiao put away the bloodthirsty demon sword. It was better not to use that thing for the time being, because no one knew what side effects it would have. As for what Eunuch Gao had given him, it was the 9 Supremes catalog from Dugubejian and the advanced general-level martial art technique, Golden Dragon Seal. He glanced at it and was pleasantly surprised. Who would have thought that he would be able to obtain all these things at the same time by chance today? He was content. After putting away the items, he stabbed out with his sword. His target was Morongqi. At first, Morongqi didn't put Ling Xiao in his eyes. However, only when Ling Xiao's sword was right in front of her did she realize to her horror that she was unable to block this sword and had no choice but to dodge. Ling Xiao did not continue fighting. He executed sword-light steps and instantly disappeared into the distance. Not long after he left, the black smoke finally disappeared completely. Dugubejian had his hands behind his back as he looked down coldly. "From today onwards, I, Dugu Kanjing, and the emperor of the Sword Dynasty. It wasn't until this voice sounded that everyone finally understood that Dugubejian was dead, or rather, only a shell was left. His soul had been destroyed. Although the person standing there looked exactly the same as Dugubejian, it was another person. The entire Sword God City was dead silent. Countless people hated the ungrateful Dugu Kanjing. They hated the ungrateful Morongchi. However, at this moment, they only felt fear. Emperor? Bah! Suddenly, a discordant voice sounded. It was Eunuch Gao. I didn't expect that the only man in Sword God City who looks like a man is actually a man who isn't a man. Dugu Kanjing looked at Eunuch Gao and smiled. You are very loyal. I like it very much. You will follow me and serve me in the future. I have served the Hegemon Sword Emperor for hundreds of years. How can I submit to the person who killed him? Eunuch Gao said coldly. Even in the face of the powerful Dugu Kanjing, he was still fearless. Ha ha! I know you are loyal, but Dugubejian is already dead. Why are you so stubborn? Follow me, and you might have a chance to take revenge. Dugu Kanjing smiled. Revenge? No. I have already handed the matter of revenge to the Emperor of the Eight Immortals Nation, Ling Shao. Although he is an enemy, he is more trustworthy than you. Although he is an enemy, I have to admit that he is talented. It won't be long before you and that woman are dead. Eunuch Gao said coldly. Is that Ling Shao? Humph, men, lock this old eunuch up. I want him to witness the extinguishment of hope with his own eyes. I want him to see Ling Shao being killed with his own eyes. Dugu Kanjing sneered and shouted sternly. Morongchi took action to restrain Eunuch Gao. The group of experts who were originally loyal to Dugubejian swarmed forward and held Eunuch Gao down. Throw him into the prison. Don't let him commit suicide. I want him to be in complete despair. Dugu Kanjing said indifferently. Your Majesty is wise. Countless people knelt down and swore allegiance to Dugu Kanjing. In the distance, Ling Shao, who had restrained his aura, sighed and said, It's a pity that there is only one man in Sword God City. This Dugu Kanjing is even more inhumane than Dugubejian. If he becomes the emperor, the Sword Dynasty will be done for. Looks like we have to speed up the process. Boss, what should we do next? Xiao Jin asked. Next, I have to tame the bloodthirsty demon sword and cultivate the golden dragon seal. Although I have obtained the 9 Supremes catalog, I still lack the key to the myriad countries' earthen path, so I still can't cultivate the 9 Supremes sword technique. However, the golden dragon seal is enough for now. Ling Shao thought for a while and said, Dugubejian said that the 2 envoys are going to hold a Fiend God tea party for the experts of the Sword Dynasty to compete for the Fiend God token. Boss, are you going? Xiao Jin asked again. Of course, there are only 3 Fiend God tokens in the Sword Dynasty. We can't let those guys take them away. Ling Shao nodded. The 2 of you don't even think about going anywhere. You will die here today. Suddenly, Dugubejian's voice sounded. Ling Shao knew that trouble was coming. The one who had occupied Dugubejian's body was Dugu Kanjing. How could that old thing be so fast? And how did he find out about him? These questions were difficult to answer, but Ling Shao knew that they were in trouble. However, he still maintained his calm. With Xiao Jin as his trump card and the Sky Tyrant Martial Spirit, he might not be afraid of Dugu Kanjing. Haha, isn't this the new emperor, Dugu Kanjing? Why are you not staying in your palace? What are you doing here? Ling Shao smiled and instantly entered the peerless heavenly mouse beast spirit transformation state. However, he still did not let Xiao Jin show himself. Kid, stop playing dumb. Hand over the bloodthirsty demon sword and the golden dragon seal, as well as the 9 Supremes catalog on Dugubejian. This old man can spare your life. Chapter 32:47. You think you can bite me to death if I don't hand over the bloodthirsty demon sword. Ling Xiao looked at Dugu Kanjing. Dugu Kanjing was so powerful that even he was a little wary. However, there was no way he would hand over the bloodthirsty demon sword, the 9 Supremes catalog, and the golden dragon seal. At most, he could use the earth elemental golden light art and life rewind to escape. It was not like he had never done such a thing before. Young man, it's not easy for you to get to where you are today. Don't cut off your own path of retreat. Dugu Kanjing frowned. If you could kill me that easily, you would have done so long ago. In my opinion, you have just succeeded in possessing Dugu Kanjing's body and have yet to adapt to it. Ling Xiao said coldly, Am I right? Good boy, you have good eyesight, but so what? This old man is just too lazy to waste energy. Since you don't want to listen, I can only kill you. With that, Dugu Kanjing suddenly attacked. Emperor Hegemon's sword. The same move, when used by Dugu Kanjing, was more than 10 times stronger than Dugu Kanjing's. Ling Xiao really did not dare to meet force with force. However, that did not mean that he could not dodge it. Earth Elemental Golden Light Art. Ling Xiao did not use the sword light steps. Instead, he used his fastest divine ability. In that instant, he got close to Dugu Kanjing's body. This greatly surprised Dugu Kanjing. He was surprised by Ling Xiao's terrifying speed. He was even more surprised that Ling Xiao did not escape, but attacked instead. All right, since you want to die, this old man will fulfill your wish. Dugu Kanjing once again waved the sword in his hand and stabbed at Ling Xiao. However, because it was a hasty attack this time, and he did not use any martial technique, the power was not as strong as before. Ling Xiao saw the opportunity and summoned the rock devil that he had prepared. At the same time, he used invincible Vajra. Crack! Despite the many defenses, Dugu Kanjing's sword still stabbed Ling Xiao. This old man was really terrifyingly powerful. However, it was merely a stab. Ling Xiao instantly transformed into his golden phoenix form, and his main body launched a brazen attack. Ghost King Overlord Sword. Dugu Kanjing didn't dare to not block this attack, as he had condensed almost all of his strength into it. Brat, you have such a powerful attack. No wonder you dare to behave atrociously in Sword God City. However, this is the end for you. Dugu Kanjing waved his hand as a blob of black gas lingered, forming a gigantic black claw that easily blocked the Ghost King Overlord Sword. Hey, old thing, you've been tricked. Ling Xiao's lips curled into a mocking smile. However, Dugu Kanjing still didn't know what he was planning. At this moment, a resplendent golden light shot out from Ling Xiao's beast ring, instantly striking Dugu Kanjing. No matter how much the old man calculated, he would never have thought that there was such a powerful demon beast hiding in Ling Xiao's beast ring. Xiao Jin attacked without the slightest intention of holding back. The terrifying 9 Nether Yellow Springs golden light exploded. It left behind a huge hole in Dugu Kanjing's body. It even emitted a charred smell. Go to hell, old man. Ling Xiao was unforgiving after gaining the upper hand. He suddenly blasted a fist out, smashing it towards Dugu Kanjing's head. However, right at this time, a terrifying black fog was released from Dugu Kanjing's body, instantly forming a black monster that was over a dozen meters tall. That monster's arms swept across the sky, forcing Ling Xiao and Xiao Jin to have no choice but to dodge. Tisk, just a little bit more. It'll be hard to kill this old fellow again. Ling Xiao was very clear that the reason why he was able to heavily injure Dugu Kanjing this time was entirely because of Xiao Jin, this explosive point. Now that Xiao Jin was exposed, it would be difficult to ambush again. What a cunning brat. Just you wait. The giant monster behind Dugu Kanjing spewed out a cloud of black smoke. The smoke was mixed with sparks, actually forcing Ling Xiao and Xiao Jin to have no choice but to turn around and dodge. They could only watch as Dugu Kanjing fled toward Sword God City. Should we chase him? Boss. Xiao Jin asked. Chase him my ass. Didn't you see that monster just now? We can't beat him right now. If I'm not mistaken, that old bastard's fighting prowess is probably close to the 6th level of life seizing. He just hasn't recovered his old cultivation base. If Murong Qi joins the fray, we won't be able to take advantage of him. Ling Xiao also wanted to kill Dugu Kanjing, but the fight had made him realize that he wasn't strong enough to do so. In any case, he wasn't in a hurry. He believed that with his talent, the longer he delayed, the greater his advantage would be. Right now, the one who should be anxious wasn't him, but Dugu Kanjing. I'll do as you say, boss. Xiao Jin knew that Ling Xiao's judgment wasn't wrong. It had always been that way. So what do we do next? Xiao Jin asked. Let's go back to the Dragon Mammoth tribe. Ling Xiao thought for a moment, then jumped onto Xiao Jin's back and sped toward the Dragon Mammoth tribe. After returning to the Dragon Mammoth tribe, Ling Xiao left them in the care of Emperor Dragon Mammoth, and the others then went into seclusion. He wanted to use this time to master the bloodthirsty demon sword and the golden dragon seal. Remember, if there's any news about the God Devil Medallion, regardless of whether I'm out or not, you have to notify me immediately. That was the last command Ling Xiao gave before he went into seclusion. For 10 days, Ling Xiao remained in seclusion. The Dragon Mammoth tribe didn't encounter any trouble, and everything was peaceful. If there were any changes, it would be that many of the smaller nations and powers that had been subordinate to the Sword God Hall had come to the Dragon Mammoth tribe. Presumably, news of what had happened in Sword God City had already spread. Dugu Kanjing had possessed Dugu Batian, and many of his loyalists had chosen to join the 8 Immortals' kingdom. Those who were already dissatisfied with the Sword God Hall were now willing to cheer for the 8 Immortals' kingdom. In just 10 days, the 8 Immortals' kingdom had occupied half of the entire Sword dynasty. Your Majesty, there's important news. A voice suddenly came from outside. Ling Xiao's eyes slowly opened, revealing a deathly gray color. If his opponents saw this kind of expression, they would probably be shocked. He had already grasped the bloodthirsty demon sword's mysteries. However, he wasn't that proficient in the control of the power of the dead. He actually had over 100 million power of the dead. What he could control now was only about 1,000 power of the 100 million power of the dead. Even so, it could increase his combat strength by about 10 times without any side effects. It was obviously more useful than the bloodthirsty demon, Rat. However, the power of the dead in the bloodthirsty demon sword would disappear. Every time he used it, he would lose the same amount of power of the dead. If he wanted to replenish it, he could only keep killing. Although Ling Xiao couldn't kill the innocent like Dugu Batian and Dugu Kanjing, this was the mystic world, a world of martial artists. It was still possible to replenish some power of the dead. He didn't feel that there was anything evil about it. Chapter 3248. In addition to the bloodthirsty demon swords, Ling Xiao also had the golden dragon seal at the level of mastery. If he wanted to improve his mastery, he would have to rely on actual combat. With that, he stepped out of seclusion. What's the big news? The God-Devil emissaries have appeared in the Sun Sea and announced that they're holding a God-Devil tea party. They've invited all 3rd Division Life Seizers from the Sword Dynasty, as well as all 6th Division Life Seizers. Ling Xiao couldn't help but frown. What are the God-Devil emissaries up to? I can understand why they want the Sword Dynasty to compete, but why are the other 8 divisions allowed to compete as well? Although there's a limit to how strong they can compete, based on Mammoth Mountain's performance, 5th Division Life Seizers don't count for much. I'm afraid only a handful of people from the Sword Dynasty are qualified to compete. As far as he was concerned, the God-Devil emissaries were simply looking down on the Sword Dynasty and were worried that the God-Devil medallions would go to waste. Got it. Off you go. Ling Xiao waved his hand dismissively, then headed to the command center to inform his superiors that he was going to the Sun Sea. This time around, Jian Fulong and Xiao Jin were going with him. Ling Xiao knew very well that the others would only be spectators if they went, and their lives might even be in danger. 5 days later, the three of them arrived at the Sun Sea. There were only 2 days left until the tea party began. According to the God-Devil emissaries, if they didn't show up on time, they would be considered to have given up on competing for the God-Devil medallions. In a way, they were helping the Sword Dynasty. With so many advantages, if the Sword Dynasty couldn't get 1 or 2 God-Devil medallions, it would be a huge loss of face. So this is the Sun Sea? The water is golden. How strange. Ling Xiao looked down at the sea below. He had never seen anything like it before. According to the rumors, this place is home to a 5th division life-sizer. A sunbird. Jian Fulong said. That's why the water here is so golden. Jian Fulong explained with a smile. Oh, so that's how it is. I wonder if the sunbird is stronger or little gold. Ling Xiao smiled. I'm not too sure about that. However, after the tea party is over, we can go and take a look. Perhaps it will be of great help to little gold in improving his strength. Jian Fulong added. As they spoke, the three of them landed on a small island in the Sun Ocean. This island was where the tea party of gods and devils would be held. In the middle of the island, there was a huge arena. The arena was made of special materials, and it was obviously built temporarily. However, he had set up layers upon layers of formations. It was almost impossible for ordinary attacks to destroy them. There were many spectator stands around the arena, and many martial artists had already gathered there. The three of them observed the situation in the arena for a while, then turned and left. There were still 2 days before the tea of gods and devils. There was no need to waste time. He could take advantage of this opportunity to take a look around the Sun Ocean. When Ling Xiao had first arrived at the Sword Dynasty, he had heard about the Sun Ocean. It was said that the sunbird might be even stronger than Dugubejian. However, it was unclear whether the rumors were true or not. In the Sun Ocean, not only was the ocean golden, even the forest was golden. It gave off an incomparably holy and mysterious aura. Ling Xiao walked alone in the forest, and the atmosphere was a little tense. Jian Fulong needed to recover his cultivation and fight for a god-fiend token. Hence, he was currently cultivating on the island. Little Gold returned to the beast ring. Along the way, Ling Xiao encountered many beasts, but he did not launch an attack. Instead, he used the sword light step to avoid them. Those beasts were too weak, and there was no need to fight them. Instead, it would be a waste of energy. What he wanted to see the most now was the sunbird. Within the golden light, there was a blazing heat. Ling Xiao had no choice but to transform into the undying bird beast soul. As the transformation was completed, his body also released the aura of a beast. As it was more powerful, no other beast dared to take the initiative to attack him. Could this be the ruins of the Sun City? Before he came here, he had heard about it from Jian Fulong. In the past, the Sun Ocean had a very majestic city known as the Sun City. At that time, even the ancestors of the Sword Dynasty were very wary of the strength of the Sun City. But later on, for some unknown reason, the Sun City was destroyed overnight and completely disappeared from the surface of the earth. Some people said that the Sun City sank into the sea. Some people said that the Sun City was destroyed by a battle between martial artists. In short, the Sun City was now left with some dilapidated walls. One could not tell that it was once a glorious city. Halt! This is the residence of the Sun Emperor. Insignificant humans are not allowed to enter. Just as Ling Xiao was advancing towards the ruins of the Sun City, a martial artist wearing golden armor suddenly appeared in front of him. Although the appearance was human, Ling Xiao could feel the aura of a beast from his body. Insignificant human? Ha! This Sun City was once built by humans. I'm just going in to take a look. Move aside, you're not my match. Ling Xiao did not make a move. In his eyes, beasts with intelligence were no different from humans. As long as they did not offend him, he generally would not take the initiative to attack. That's impossible. The golden-armored martial artist shook his head and instantly changed back to his original form. It turned out that it was actually a huge golden battle wolf. This fellow's body actually contained a small amount of the power of the sun. It was probably bestowed to him by the sunbird. Not stopping die. Since there's no way to reason, then we can only fight. Although Ling Xiao was not willing to be enemies with the beasts here, he only wanted to find the Sun Emperor to have a chat. But since the other party did not give him face, then the only way was to fight. These demonic beasts were able to occupy human territories because they were strong enough. And if Ling Xiao wanted to go to the ruins to search, he had to first defeat these beasts. There was really no reason to talk. The only thing that could be used to talk was only fists. Awoo! The golden battle wolf let out a loud cry. Then its claws slammed on the ground and pounced towards Ling Xiao with the speed of wind and thunder, wanting to kill this insignificant and arrogant human. The golden battle wolf that was covered in golden light released terrifying heat, making Xiao Jin extremely excited. Clearly, it wanted to devour Yang Qi. I'll practice my martial arts. Yang Qi said, I'll leave the rest to you. Smiling, Ling Xiao didn't back up. Facing the sudden attack of the golden battle wolf, he performed an incantation gesture with both hands, causing a golden dragon to appear above his head. Golden dragon seal. Following Ling Xiao's furious roar, the golden dragon broke through the sky and collided with the golden battle wolf in the blink of an eye. Clearly, Ling Xiao's attack was incredibly powerful. The golden battle wolf was only a first-star life-sizer. How could it possibly block the golden dragon seal? Chapter 3249. In the moment that the golden dragon seal swallowed up the battle wolf, the ruins of Sun City began to shine with dazzling golden light. That golden light was filled with rage and killing intent. A sunbird? So, it really is in the 5th division of life seizing. Ling Xiao looked off into the distance, breathing a sigh of relief. He had been worried that the sunbird would be too strong for him to handle. After all, the demonlings here didn't care about reason, and only respected strength. If he were weaker than the sunbird, he wouldn't be able to enter Sun City. Picking up his pace, he headed in the direction of the ruins, where he smelled something that made him excited. It was almost as if he were looking for some treasure that had been buried here for tens of thousands of years. As he approached the ruins, Ling Xiao realized that the temperature here had become even hotter, as though he was close to the sun. His entire body felt like it was about to melt. No wonder the sunbird stayed here for so long, and no one dared to come here to search for treasure. Only I, who have beast souls of the undying bird, and the Cerberus would be able to withstand such heat. Only demonlings like Little Gold would be able to come here. Ling Xiao thought to himself as he sensed the heat. Of course, that was good. The fewer people who came, the better it would be for him. After all, it would prove that Sun City had never been explored before. He refused to believe that Sun City, which had once been so prosperous that even the sword god Hall outshone it, would be completely empty. Inside the beast ring, Little Gold seemed very excited. In fact, he seemed even more excited than Ling Xiao. To him, the sunbird was like a huge bag of experience. Although Little Gold was already at the peak of the 5th division of life seizing, There was no limit to how strong he could get. He wasn't even a match for Dugu Kanjing, much less a 6th division life-sizer. Therefore, Little Gold wanted to get stronger as quickly as possible. Eventually, Ling Xiao arrived at Sun City. Above the ruins, there was a huge sculpture. The sculpture was in the shape of the sun. Although everything else had been melted by the heat, the statue of the sun was still in perfect condition. Despite the passage of time, it hadn't deteriorated. At this moment, a small bird the size of a palm was standing on top of the sun sculpture. The sun sculpture was more than 10 meters tall. If one didn't pay attention, they wouldn't even notice the golden bird standing on top of it. His appearance is quite similar to Xiao Jin's, and his aura is also very similar. It seems that his strength is about the same. Ling Xiao looked at the little golden bird and was quite surprised that the sunbird was so small. However, he was still certain that it was the overlord of this place, the Sun Emperor. "You won't stop me from excavating the treasure, will you?" Ling Xiao looked at the sunbird and said, "I have no intention of being your enemy, but don't fail to appreciate my kindness. That golden battle wolf didn't reason with me, but talked about strength with me. So I killed it. Do you want to follow in its footsteps?" The sunbird coldly stared at Ling Xiao. Suddenly, it let out a loud cry. The entire island began to shake. A large number of demonic beasts rushed over from the sky, and on the ground, there were more than 100,000 of them densely packed together. Ling Xiao frowned. Speaking of which, the beast tide was only SOSO. There weren't even that many demonic beasts. The sunbird was quite smart. Obviously, it realized that Ling Xiao was an expert, so it planned to use the beast tide tactic. A giant elephant that was more than 10 meters tall. A giant firebird with wings that stretched dozens of meters. A giant crab that was 7 to 8 meters wide crawled out of the sea. In addition, there were countless terrifying demonic beasts that Ling Xiao didn't even know the names of. At this moment, they were all quietly waiting near the palm-sized bird, surrounding it. As expected, you can't judge a bird by its appearance. Ling Xiao sighed. The bird didn't look like much, but it had the ability to control almost all the demonic beasts in the Sun Sea. Fortunately, Ling Xiao was strong enough. Otherwise, he could only turn around and run. The sunbird released a shocking killing intent and locked onto Ling Xiao. At that moment, it was like the king of all beasts. Speaking of which, there's no need to make such a big scene. I'm just here to take a look at the ruins, not to be your enemy. Do I really have to do this? Ling Xiao looked at the sunbird, not caring about the other party's killing intent. If he was still in the Sky Dragon continent and encountered such a beast tide, his resistance would have been destroyed. But here, he really had nothing to be afraid of. Whether it was fighting or running, he had a way. "Puny human, you killed my people. You deserve to die." The sunbird gave the order. The beasts were boiling and all charged at Ling Xiao, wanting to drown Ling Xiao in the beast tide. "You'll definitely regret this decision of yours." Since there was no way to negotiate peacefully, he could only fight. Ling Xiao sneered and instantly entered the unbounded, heavenly rat beast soul transformation state. Then, many beast souls appeared behind him. Three-headed lava hound, scorching hell. As his voice sounded, the entire space that was wrapped in golden light suddenly turned dark red. An endless scorching hell was born. Lava surged and flames rolled. It turned into a scorching world. Meteor fall. As the scorching hell took shape, Ling Xiao immediately released the meteor. A huge meteor with a diameter of more than 10 meters fell from the sky, wreaking havoc in the scorching hell. Those beasts that charged at Ling Xiao were smashed to death by the terrifying meteor and burned to death by the terrifying flames. Purple lightning thunderbolt beast soul, earthquake. In the scorching hell, The earth suddenly shook, and those agile beasts were all dizzy. In an instant, they were swallowed by the lava and fire dragons. Do you still want to continue? Ling Xiao looked at the sunbird coldly. He was just giving the other party a show of strength. His real combat power had not burst out yet. The sunbird let out a sharp cry. Then it grew bigger with the wind and instantly turned into a huge golden bird. Its body, when stretched out, was more than 10 meters long. This should be the sunbird's original form. Looks like you're stubborn. Ling Xiao sneered and did not talk nonsense. 9 snake poison region, black poison of death. The terrifying lava and meteors were already enough to frighten the beast horde. At this time, the black poison began to spread in the scorching hell. Everywhere it passed, not a single blade of grass was left alive. Countless beasts fell to the ground and melted into a pile of black blood. This was war, whether it was a war between humans or a war between humans and beasts. Finally, the beasts began to realize that the human in front of them had terrifying strength that was not inferior to the sunbird. They began to fear and began to flee. Ling Xiao did not chase after those beasts that fled. There was no need. He only killed those beasts that attacked him. It was easy to understand why those beasts fled. They were willing to fight for the sunbird because the sunbird was strong enough to pressure them to fight.